Chapter 21. After Wyrm was transported into the space-time tunnel, the changes in his body became more and more obvious. His rationality also disappeared bit by bit. In the end, he began to attack the space-time tunnel without restraint. Coincidentally, Wyrm in his origin dragon form could destroy space-time. As a result, the space-time tunnel, which wasn't very sturdy to begin with, was completely destroyed by Wyrm. It was also due to the influence of the space-time tunnel that apart from the items in Dragonist, Wyrm's Holy Spear Yggdrasil and Holy Sword X Silver were also affected by the space-time tunnel, and vaguely entered the area where the space-time tunnel was broken. Wyrm instinctively made a prompt decision and swallowed the Holy Sword X Silver, Meteor Silver, which was connected to Wyrm by blood. When the Holy Spear Yggdrasil, left the space-time tunnel, it also entered an unknown era together with Wyrm. Then, there was a legend of a holy dragon that lived on top of a mountain in that era. On a mountain peak that was closest to the blue sky, in a man-made cave, a terrifying and holy dragon was hibernating. The strange thing was that this dragon's body was surrounded by wisps of black gas. The dragon's white scales were angular and filled with a silver-white metallic luster. The dragon horns on its head resembled a dazzling crown that shone brightly. Scorching dragon breath spewed out along with the dragon's breath. After an unknown period of time, the black gas disappeared and the dragon's breathing gradually stabilized. The dragon opened its eyes and its ruby-like eyes were particularly eye-catching in the dark cave. "I see. Have I become a dragon?" An ancient and deep voice sounded from the dragon's mouth. Yes, this dragon in the cave was the origin dragon Wyrm that Morgan Le Fay tricked. Ever since arriving in this unfamiliar era, Wyrm had completely lost his rationality, due to the enormous power of the origin dragon, leaving only the nature of the origin dragon. During this period, the black gas in Wyrm's body constantly eroded him. Wyrm instinctively resisted this power and eliminated it. As a result, apart from the occasional predation, Wyrm basically stayed in the cave that he opened up with his power to hibernate. Coincidentally, after completely eliminating the black gas, Wyrm also restrained the enormous power of the origin dragon out of self-preservation. As a result, Wyrm's rationality also returned. What the hell is this? Damn it, that bastard Morgan Le Fay. Wyrm's huge dragon claw slammed on the ground, scattering dust and gravel. I don't know where Yggdrasil went. Fortunately, I swallowed X Silver. Although Wyrm's rationality had disappeared, his memory was fine. Wyrm clearly remembered swallowing the sword and losing the spear. Forget it, it's my noble artifact anyway. As long as I'm in this era, I'll definitely be able to find it. Let's take it slow and treat it as a long-awaited trip. Wyrm stretched but realized that the dragon's body was not easy to stretch. I almost forgot that I've become a dragon. Looks like a monster's journey is about to happen. Ha ha ha, Wyrm seemed to have thought of something, and laughed happily. As expected of me. After completely adapting to a human's life and body, I can still be so happy after becoming a dragon. Yes, this should be me as the origin dragon. Wyrm got up and walked towards the entrance of the cave. Whoosh! The noisy wind constantly whistled around Wyrm. Swish! Wyrm spread his huge dragon wings. Wyrm's dragon wings were like a work of art. They were noble, gorgeous, and inviolable. Whoosh! With a flap of his wings, Wyrm soared into the sky and flew into the distance. Wyrm flew unscrupulously in the sky. Because he was a dragon, there weren't any beasts that didn't have eyes to attack Wyrm. Feeling the whistling wind around him and looking at the spectacular scene on the ground, Wyrm couldn't help but exclaim, "This feels great. Ha ha ha." Wyrm continued to make one movement after another in the air, and never got tired of it. After playing for a while, Wyrm saw a city. After thinking for a while, he flew down. The citizens in the city noticed a black dot approaching in the sky. They gathered together curiously until they realized that it was a giant dragon. Dragon! It's a dragon! Quick! Everyone leave! The citizens ran away in panic. The soldiers also helped to command and report to their superiors. Wyrm landed on the square in the center of the city. A huge wave of air rushed around. Whoosh! Many people who didn't retreat in time were thrown around. Wuming looked at the panicked people and the surrounding buildings. He wanted to see what era it was. In the end, after looking for a long time, Wuming could only conclude that it was an era earlier than King Arthur. He didn't know anything else. Child. Suddenly, a scream came from behind Wuming. At the same time, Wuming felt something crawling on his tail. Wuming looked back. It was a child of 2 or 3 years old. The child's mother seemed to have panicked because of Wuming's arrival, causing the child to run onto Wuming's tail. Wuming lifted his tail and moved it to his mouth. Just when everyone thought that the dragon was going to eat the child, and the mother screamed in pain, Wuming rubbed his huge dragon face against the child. Hee. Wuming's rubbing made the child laugh. Wuming moved his tail to the top of his head. The child climbed onto Wuming's head and hugged Wuming's dragon horns, giggling. Everyone then realized that the dragon in front of them wasn't as scary as they thought. On the contrary, Wuming, who was accompanied by the child's laughter, appeared unusually sacred. May I ask, Lord Dragon God, can you return my child to me? The mother also saw that the sacred dragon in front of her didn't seem to have any intention of hurting or eating people, so she mustered up her courage and went forward to ask. Wuming extended his dragon tail, and the child playing with the dragon horns on Wuming's head obediently climbed up. Wuming moved long way down and moved in front of the mother. Thank you for not hurting my child. Thank you. The mother hurriedly hugged the child and thanked him while crying. The people around them also heaved a sigh of relief and relaxed, but they still didn't let down their guard. After all, even if the dragon in front of them was friendly and sacred, they couldn't guarantee that it wouldn't suddenly go berserk. Wuming saw that the people around him were slowly calming down, so he directly opened his mouth and asked, "Can you ask your king to talk to me? I have something to ask him." Suddenly, there was a deathly silence around them. The people didn't expect the dragon in front of them to speak at all. After all, dragons were a type of magical beast. They had never seen a magical beast that could speak human language. It was already surprising enough that it didn't hurt people. "Honorable Dragon, Lord Dragon, we have already sent someone to inform His Majesty the King. His Majesty the King should be here soon. Please wait a moment," said a braver soldier. At this time, a group of people came from afar. The leader was a man who looked to be in the prime of his life and had the temperament of a king. Wuming guessed that this should be the king. After he dismounted, the soldier who spoke to Wuming hurriedly ran to him and told him everything that happened just now. After the soldier finished speaking, he motioned for the soldier to leave and then walked to Wuming. "Honorable Lord Dragon, I'm the Uruk King Lugalbanda of this city. May I ask why you're looking for me?" said the man named Lugalbanda. "I want to form a contract with you," Wuming said calmly. "What?" Lugalbanda was stunned on the spot. Chapter 22. Soon, a few years had passed, and the name of the young ancient king began to spread throughout the Sumer region. As long as Wuming had nothing to do, he would follow the young king in the form of a shadow of faith, watching the wise young king grow up day by day. Wuming found it hard to imagine that Gilgamesh would become a tyrant when he grew up. On the altar, in front of Hyenryong's statue, after the daily worship, the Uruk people left one after another. In the end, only the young king remained. "All right, Hyenryong, the people have left. Come out and talk to me." The young king smiled like a well-behaved child. However, Wuming didn't think so. The stone statue began to emit a faint golden light. An illusory dragon shadow appeared on the stone statue. "You're still as wicked as ever, little Gil." An ancient, dull voice sounded. "Ha! What can I do? I'm a well-behaved child." Pure laughter entered Wuming's ears. Wuming shook his head. "Let's go. Today is the spiritual peak adventure." The young king's eyes lit up. "Is it the legendary spiritual peak Abyff Mountain that even the gods fear?" "Of course. The place I'll take you to will definitely be the best." Wuming tilted his head and said proudly. "Then get ready." After that, Wuming began to chant. In the young Gilgamesh's slightly nervous and excited eyes, a gorgeous golden magic circle enveloped him. The light drowned Gilgamesh's eyes. When Gilgamesh put down his arm that was blocking the light, a tall mountain came into view. Is this the spiritual peak Abif Mountain? The young king let out a joyful voice that a child should have. After all, this kid is just a kid. Wuming thought to himself. This place is amazing. Hyenryong, let's go up quickly. With that, Gilgamesh moved his short legs and began the great adventure of climbing the Abif Mountain. Wuming floated in the air like a phantom, accompanying the young king as they moved up the mountain. Abifushin, you have to make things more difficult for the king, or she will show off in front of me again. After all, it was a spiritual peak. Wuming could feel the immense magical power contained within the mountain. After a brief exchange of magic power, Wuming took control of some of the things on the mountain and began to obstruct Gilgamesh. In the process of climbing up the mountain, the young Gilgamesh encountered many strange things. Falling rocks from the top of the mountain, circling eagles, entangling vines, and charging wild beasts, all of which caused some difficulties for Gilgamesh. But in the end, Gilgamesh still reached the top of the mountain. Wah! The young king shouted to the sky, expressing the joy in his heart. Ha ha ha, Hyenryong, come and see, this is a spectacular scene. That's why this Abif mountain is called a spiritual peak, Gil. A small Wuming appeared and floated beside Gilgamesh. Okay, the adventure is over. Let's change back, Wuming said. Well, I haven't had enough. But let's go back, the good things should be left for last. The young king began his journey down the mountain. Wuming also disappeared. If the journey up the mountain was difficult, then the journey down the mountain was wonderful. Along the way, Gilgamesh played with cute little animals, collected wild fruits, and collected shiny stones. It was a lot of fun. However, it didn't take long for Wuming to discover that a goddess had arrived. Did she come specifically to find Gil? No, that doesn't seem to be the case. Then what is she here for? Wuming didn't specifically tell Gilgamesh about the arrival of the goddess. After all, Gilgamesh was now on the side of the gods. Although he would side with the humans in the future. Soon the goddess and Gilgamesh met. Isn't this Gilgamesh? What are you doing here? Facing the goddess who suddenly appeared, Gilgamesh was a little confused. Wuming appeared behind Gilgamesh. Facing this beautiful goddess, Wuming seemed to think of something. Goddess Ishtar, what are you doing here at Abif Mountain? Wuming's ancient and dull voice sounded. Oh, isn't this Hyenryong, Sama of Uruk? Are you still accompanying the young king? I thought you had left long ago. I don't think Ruamat Ningsuan can restrain you. What, do you like to be a nanny? Or do you like the young king? The goddess called Ishtar by Wuming joked. Although it was an honorific, there was no respect in it. I don't need you to care about my business. Let your father come. In fact, when Wuming became the Hyenryong of Uruk, Wuming had contact with the Protoss in the Sumer area. Perhaps because Wuming showed his true form, which was the legendary dragon of origin. The divine King Anu was in awe of Wuming. This gave Wuming, who was not very strong at that time, an opportunity to pretend. He disguised himself as a very powerful legendary origin dragon who was injured and needed faith to recover from his injuries. Therefore, the scene of Wuming scolding Ishtar appeared. You must be joking. I'm here today to see this spiritual peak. I won't disturb you and the young king. With that, she continued to walk up the mountain. I've long heard that goddess Ishtar is very brave. Today, I see that it's true. Let's go, Gil, let's go back. However, Gilgamesh did not move. What's wrong, Gil? Wuming was puzzled. Gilgamesh should not have been charmed by the goddess. There's something wrong with that goddess's gaze, Gilgamesh said in a light tone. Something wrong? Yes, it's a gaze that looks like she's about to destroy a treasure. What you mean to say is, I think her target is this spiritual peak, Mount Abif. That's none of our business. Let's go. Although that was what Wuming said, he did not think so. Hyenryong, send me back to Uruk. I want to go back soon. I really don't know what to do with you. With a flash of light, Gilgamesh disappeared on the spot. Wuming, on the other hand, turned around and flew in the direction of Ishtar. If I remember correctly, there's a story in Mesopotamia. The goddess Ishtar destroyed Mount Abif because she did not like it. With every step she took, her divine might increased until she grasped the peak and pierced the heart of the mountain with her spear, causing the spiritual peak of Mount Abif to collapse completely. Trying to stop Ishtar's destruction of Mount Abif is really a vexing matter. Do I have nothing better to do? But I do have nothing better to do. Ishtar, I'm here to stop you. Wyrm turned into a stream of light and ran forward. Chapter 23. After sending off Gilgamesh, Wyrm soon caught up with Ishtar, who was heading to the top of the mountain. After that, Wyrm and Ishtar went down the mountain together. After watching Ishtar leave, Wyrm deliberately set up a barrier to prevent Ishtar from going back on her words. After that, they returned to the Uruk Hyenryong stone statue. You're back, Hyenryong. The young Gilgamesh sat in front of the stone statue and looked at the vast sky. Yes, I'm back. I also successfully stopped Ishtar, but what happened, Hyenryong? The young king tilted his head and was unusually cute. Ahem, you'll know in the future. Now you have to start becoming stronger, Gil. Otherwise, you won't be able to protect the things you want to protect. Just like today, you can only rely on others. Yes, I know. The young Gil smiled innocently. In fact, the young Gilgamesh wasn't weak. Of course, this was only for humans. The young Gilgamesh was a child prodigy. Whether it was martial arts or wisdom, they were both extraordinary. But, in the future you will face all the gods in the sky. Without great power, you won't be able to compete with them. Gilgamesh wasn't an idiot. He was naive now, but he wasn't stupid. For magic, you should continue to ask your mother for advice. For martial arts, I'll take care of it, but the stone statue that Wyrm was attached to emitted a terrifying aura. If you don't take this teaching seriously, you'll die. The young Gilgamesh swallowed and nodded his little head frantically. After that, under the guidance of Wyrm and Rim at Ningsuen, Gilgamesh grew rapidly. Time flew by quickly. After the usual Hyenryong ritual, the blonde, red-eyed, heroic queen sat in front of the Hyenryong statue. She just sat there quietly, looking at the vast and boundless sky without saying a word. The stone statue began to glow, revealing an illusory figure. What's wrong, Gil? Is something on your mind? Wyrm looked at the heroic queen in front of him, and couldn't help but recall the past. I actually didn't realize that Gil was a girl before. I'm such a big idiot. Sigh. It couldn't be helped. Who asked Gilgamesh to be so handsome and androgynous when he was a child? Besides, it was impossible for Wyrm to watch Gilgamesh take a bath or go to the toilet. Nothing big. I just feel that the people are living too comfortably. Who are you? Do they lack the courage to face their fears? Come to think of it, they come to me whenever they're in trouble. Wyrm pondered. The current Uruk people might not be able to survive the bull of the sky in the future, the 7-year drought. So you want to be a tyrant? After hearing this, Gilgamesh's face lit up with an arrogant smile. I'm not a tyrant, I'm a tyrant. I'll take my leave first, Hyenryong. As he spoke, Gilgamesh stood up handsomely and walked toward the Uruk palace. After all, a perfect genius would definitely become a king when he grew up. As expected, during this period, the Uruk king Gilgamesh wantonly fought and accumulated wealth. Thinking back to Gilgamesh when he was a child, he was highly respected and admired by everyone. Although he was a girl, Gilgamesh was extraordinary, beautiful, and heroic. Most importantly, he was the ideal ruler of the people. The young Gilgamesh had the qualities of a king that were more outstanding than anyone else on earth. Tolerance, deep thinking, justice, and virtue. All the passers-by on the street praised her, falling head over heels for her beauty. However, this was all a plot of the gods. In order to restrict the people, the gods created Gilgamesh, who was 2/3 god and 1/3 human. They made him a king and ruled over the ignorant people, making them peaceful and believing in them. However, after he grew up, Gilgamesh realized that the people lacked some things, such as the courage to face their fears. Now that Wyrm was here, it only increased the occurrence of this matter. Hence, Gilgamesh decided to create a storm to discipline the people instead of just being a king who ruled over them. The disaster of the people came. Gilgamesh had been bullying people and tyrannizing women recently. His character had changed from being wise, gentle, tolerant, and just to arrogant and domineering. Now he often called others bastards. How should he put it? This was something worth complaining about. The hero King Gilgamesh who called others bastards, 2/3 god and 1/3 human. Just kidding. Hence one day, Wyrm sneaked into the dream of the sleeping Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh walked on a dark road with a bleak future. Is this my dream? Gilgamesh said. Yes, Gil, this is your dream. The huge Hyenryong appeared behind Gilgamesh. Oh, is this your real body, Hyenryong? Gilgamesh crossed his arms and said with interest. How is it? Not bad, right? Ha ha ha. Wyrm's dull voice began to spread. Gilgamesh, who was frowning slightly, chuckled softly and said, Don't worry. Then, what are you doing in my dream, Hyenryong? Today, I snuck into your dream to tell you about the prophecy I saw today. Secondly, I came to see if you have changed. Wyrm stopped laughing and said, What prophecy? Gilgamesh said seriously. After all, it was a prophecy from his teacher, so he had to listen to it for the time being. This was what Gilgamesh thought. In order to prevent you from not focusing on suppressing the people, the gods made a humanoid weapon when you were young. Soon, this humanoid weapon will accidentally learn of your various atrocities and come to Uruk to stop your atrocities. His name is Enkidu. Enkidu, interesting. Then let him come. Let me see if the weapon made by the gods has the strength. After that, Gilgamesh turned and walked on the dark road. You will become friends with him. Gilgamesh, who was walking forward, stopped and turned to look at Wyrm. Friends? I, Gilgamesh, don't need friends, and no one is qualified to be my friend. Gilgamesh looked at Wyrm fiercely. But in Wyrm's view, she was like a proud lioness. Oh, is that so, Gil? Wyrm said with a smile, deliberately lengthening his voice. Hey, you are my teacher, so we are not the same. Before he finished, Gilgamesh immediately turned and continued to walk. But before turning around, Wyrm still caught the blush on her face. It will be the only friend you recognize. This, when you see it, you will realize. Wyrm looked at Gilgamesh and said, Then when I see it, I will beat it up. Gilgamesh walked and said without looking back. Wyrm's huge dragon mouth opened and he smiled. As you wish. Gilgamesh's footsteps paused for a moment, but in the blink of an eye, he continued to walk. Although your future is full of fog, your goal is unwavering. You will definitely reach the end. Continue to walk. Before I leave, I will open a path for you, as your teacher for 18 years. After that, the darkness around Gilgamesh's path gradually dispersed. Wyrm's huge dragon body also turned into specks of starlight, floating around Gilgamesh. At this moment, she was like a battle goddess, heroic, beautiful and powerful. Chapter 24. After Wyrm snuck into Gilgamesh's dream, for a long time, Gilgamesh's behavior was slightly restrained. Although the people didn't notice, Wyrm did. After that, the Enkidu that Wyrm mentioned came to Uruk city. And because of Wyrm's words, Gilgamesh also began to pay attention to Enkidu. On this day, Wyrm was attached to a dragon-shaped puppet made by magic and flew into the palace where Gilgamesh was. Gilgamesh saw something come in, his body moved, and with a leap, he grabbed the puppet that Wyrm was attached to. This is Hyenryong? You're so carefree. Not only do you not need to recover, you're still in the mood to play with puppets, Gilgamesh mocked. To the outside world, Wyrm announced that he was injured and needed to recover. What are you talking about? This is also a necessary lesson for self-cultivation. Look at my wings, how realistic the carvings are, and these claws. Wyrm, who was grabbed by Gilgamesh, began his speech. Stop, I don't want to know the structure of this puppet. Why did you come to this king today? Do you want to see this king become friends with Enkidu? Gilgamesh swung his hand and let go of Wyrm. Wyrm flapped his wings and flew in front of Gilgamesh. You're so violent, I don't remember teaching you to be like this. Wyrm quickly said when he saw Gilgamesh's fierce, ruby-like eyes. Actually, I'm just worried about you. I'm afraid you'll get hurt, so I'm here to make sure you don't go overboard. In fact, after Wyrm told Gilgamesh about Enkidu, Wyrm was worried that Gilgamesh wouldn't become friends with Enkidu. Then the story would be messed up. Alright, even though the history of this world was different from the stories Wyrm knew, it was still not the same. But that wasn't the point. At least Wuming didn't hate the god-made weapon called Enkidu. Wuming was now almost able to use a bit of the power of the root dragon, so Wuming decided that when the bull of the sky wreaks havoc in the future, he would deal with it. That way, the gods wouldn't punish either Gilgamesh or Enkidu. A guy that I've never heard of could injure this king? Who do you think this king is? What a joke. Hyenryong, don't worry, this king is just going to beat it up and won't do anything to it. After all, this king is the Uruk hero king. Gilgamesh crossed his arms in front of his chest with an arrogant look. Wuming looked at Gilgamesh's arms with a strange expression, and muttered in a low voice. I didn't notice it before, how did it grow so fast now? What are you looking at, Hyenryong? Gilgamesh's face was slightly red as he turned his body sideways, and his arms began to cover his chest. Ahem, nothing. Don't underestimate Enkidu later. After all, it was created as a god-made weapon to contain you. Underestimating it will cause you to suffer. Wuming coughed and quickly changed the topic. I know, this king will be a little more serious later, just a little more. Gilgamesh's face showed an expression that said, I'll hit it a little more gently. Sure enough, Wuming had already thought of Gilgamesh's awkwardness when he realized that he couldn't do anything to Enkidu for a while. Then I wish you good luck, Gil. The puppet dragon lay on Gilgamesh's head with a happy face. Hey, you can only lie there for a while. This king will go and meet that guy later. Yes, Wuming found that Gilgamesh would only reveal her young girl's heart when she was alone with him. She showed the attitude of an ordinary person, not a king or a tyrant, noble, cruel, arrogant, and powerful. Wuming didn't want to see Gilgamesh as a king, which made him think of Artoria. However, Wuming knew that Gilgamesh was a real king, an impeccable one. He didn't want Artoria to abandon her gender, and only protect her people with her sword. Gilgamesh wouldn't hide her gender. On the contrary, she would openly tell the people and lead them in two contradictory ways, which were full of warmth and cruelty. It had to be said that Gilgamesh was much better at being a king than Artoria. Artoria was only suitable to be a knight. Of course, this was only Wuming's personal opinion. No matter what, as long as they wanted to, Wuming would open a path for them. Wuming came back to his senses and cleared his mind. Looking at the busy streets and the worried people, Wuming said, I think Enkidu will come back to you in the name of the people. Gilgamesh crossed his long legs, drank the wine and said with a smile, Ha! Then let him come. This king is worried that no one can entertain this king. Gilgamesh took a sip of the wine in the fancy wine glass and savored it carefully. Hyenryong, do you want a sip? Gilgamesh raised the glass and said to Wuming, who was on top of his head, Forget it. This puppet doesn't have feelings. It doesn't matter if I drink or not. After saying that, Wuming seemed to have sensed something. He immediately flew up from Gilgamesh's head and landed on the table in front of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh also looked at the door. After a few seconds, a soldier came in from outside. King, someone called Enkidu is provoking you outside the palace. He said that you are cruel and heartless. He wants you to change. Gilgamesh looked at the soldier. With just a glance, the soldier lowered his head even more. Let him wait. Yes, the soldier said and quickly ran out. Gilgamesh slowly savored the wine in his hand. He wasn't in a hurry. At this time Wuming spoke. How cruel are you now? Look at that soldier. He doesn't even dare to look at you. That's just because he hasn't gotten used to my changes, and is afraid of angering me. It'll be fine after a while. Gilgamesh put down the empty glass and stood up. Okay, the wine is finished. It's time to let that guy called Enkidu know the name of the hero king. After saying that, he strode out of the door. Don't be careless. Shut up. Wuming smiled and shook his head. He also flew out of the window. On the street, Gilgamesh stood straight in the middle of the street with his arms crossed. His golden ratio figure was exposed. He looked at the opposite side with a mocking expression. In front of him, a person with long green hair and a face that resembled a young girl stood there. He looked at Gilgamesh with a serious expression. Are you Enkidu? Are you the hero king Gilgamesh? The two sentences that were said at almost the same time collided with each other, forming an invisible pressure in the air. Ha! Interesting. Let me see what you're made of, bastard. Chapter 25. However, this isn't the place to fight. Come with me. After saying that, she walked towards the stone statue. After all, this was her country, her territory. She couldn't afford to lose anything. After a while, the two of them met in front of the Hyenryong stone statue. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu arrived, Wyrm had already transferred his consciousness into the stone statue. After the two of them arrived, Wyrm used the Lune runes to create a barrier to protect the sacrificial altar from being destroyed. Then let me ask you something. What are you here for? Are you here to teach me a lesson? Gilgamesh sneered. That's right. Let me teach you a lesson for your arrogance. Finishing his words, Enkidu stomped on the ground and shot forward, charging at Gilgamesh in front of him. Gilgamesh didn't want to be left behind and rushed towards him as well. Dong! The two of them collided and created a strong gust of wind that blew away everything around them. The huge Hyenryong stone statue shook slightly, but it quickly stabilized. During the confrontation, Gilgamesh looked into Enkidu's golden eyes. Gilgamesh saw understanding in those eyes, as if Enkidu had already seen through him. Gilgamesh couldn't help but be enraged. Gilgamesh exerted force and pushed Enkidu away. With a wave of his hand, golden ripples appeared behind him. Blades, spears, swords, and halberds that could be considered treasures slowly emerged from the golden ripples. Gilgamesh grabbed one of them and charged at Enkidu again, while the rest of the treasures shot out one after another. Their target was Enkidu. Enkidu saw the incoming swords, spears, swords, and halberds, as well as Gilgamesh, who was charging at him with a sword in his hand. However, he didn't panic. He only touched the ground with one hand, and in an instant, swords made of mud appeared from the ground. Enkidu grabbed one of them and charged at Gilgamesh. Bam, 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 bam. One by one, the treasures collided with the treasures made of earth, creating sonic booms. Gilgamesh and Enki were also engaged in battle. Saber chi and sword chi swirled in the air. Slowly, Wyrm's protection started to lose its effect. The Lune runes were violently destroyed, and cracks appeared on the ground. Ridiculous! You're just a piece of mud and pebble. How dare you compare yourself to me? Gilgamesh seemed to have met an evenly matched opponent. At this moment, Gilgamesh's face was filled with shock and anger. Enkidu didn't say anything. Instead, he faced Gilgamesh's endless attacks. Bam, 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 bam. Gilgamesh and Enkidu's fight became more and more intense. Wyrm, who possessed the Hyenryong stone statue, was speechless. Just like that, Gilgamesh and Enkidu fought on the Hyenryong sacrificial altar for an entire day. The sounds of swords clashing echoed throughout the Uruk, making the Uruk citizens very uneasy. Finally, the sounds of swords and sabers stopped. Gilgamesh stood tiredly. His clothes were badly damaged and couldn't cover anything. Enkidu was the same. His body was lacking in weight, and his clothes couldn't cover his body. After all, the swords and sabers were made from Enkidu's own soil. After a moment, Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu and laughed happily. This surprised Wyrm. Ha 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 ha. Gilgamesh lay on the ground while laughing. However, as if there was something supporting him, he slowly lay down. At the same time, a piece of white cloth wrapped around Gilgamesh. This is our last move, right? If we don't have anything to protect, we'll just end up with two more stupid corpses. Gilgamesh said with a smile. Then how about we end it with a draw? Enkidu thought for a moment and said. Then he followed Gilgamesh's movement and lay down. But in the next moment, Enkidu felt a force supporting him from the huge stone statue. At the same time, a piece of white cloth appeared out of nowhere and wrapped around him. That must be Hyenryong. So gentle. After resting for a moment, Enkidu suddenly said, "Won't you feel bad about using up those treasures?" Gilgamesh lay on the slightly messy Hyenryong altar and laughed. What's the big deal? If the opponent is worth it, I'll even use up all the things in the Gate of Babylon. Is that so? You're interesting. Enkidu's clear voice said something that Garen didn't understand. Hearing the conversation between Gilgamesh and Enkidu while lying on the ground, Wyrm suddenly had a wicked idea. Hyenryong's stone statue suddenly emitted a golden light. Gilgamesh and Enkidu subconsciously turned their heads away. After the golden light faded, two people appeared in front of the statue. After seeing the two people, Gilgamesh and Enkidu were stunned. Golden hair, ruby-like eyes filled with deathly stillness, and a face that resembled Gilgamesh's. If one were to say that these two were Gilgamesh's younger brother or elder brother, no one would doubt it. But, Gilgamesh, do you have a brother? Enkidu asked curiously. Gilgamesh, who was usually arrogant, actually blushed. Although his expression became angrier, it also became more alluring. Hyenryong, did you do it? Gilgamesh roared. After being roared at by Gilgamesh, the two people seemed to have woken up, and their eyes regained their vigor. One of them spoke. Ha ha ha, these are the dolls that I made earlier to make it easier for me to possess. I modified them just now to make these two dolls more realistic. Then the other puppet said, don't worry. I saw that you two were tired from fighting, so I was going to send you two to the palace to rest. As he spoke, the two male versions of Gilgamesh walked towards Gilgamesh and Enkidu respectively. Hey, don't use my face. Wait, I'll just rest here for a while. I don't need you to send me Wah. Before he could finish, Wuming picked up Gilgamesh. Of course, he was carrying him like a princess. At the same time, Wuming's other doll also picked up Enkidu. Compared to the noisy Gilgamesh, Enkidu was much more obedient. Look at Enkidu, he's so obedient. You should behave yourself too. I don't need you to care about me. Hurry up and put me down. Also, why are you using such a young doll? You old monster who has lived for who knows how many years. Although Gilgamesh said that he didn't want to, when he heard the other Wuming's doll say that Enkidu was obedient, he also sat down and stopped making a fuss. However, his face became even redder. That's really sad. I'm not even a newborn in my race. Wuming's doppelganger controlled the two dolls and spoke as they walked. Enkidu, who was lying quietly in Wuming's arms, looked at the male version of Gilgamesh face and thought, what a warm embrace, is this the legendary origin dragon? Accompanied by the noise of Wuming and Gilgamesh, Wuming, who used the Loon rune to hide Gilgamesh and Enkidu, returned to the palace with Gilgamesh and Enkidu. After that, the Uruk spread the news that Enkidu, who challenged the tyrant Gilgamesh, was recruited by Hyenryong as a sacrifice. The sacrifice Enkidu would be stationed at the Hyenryong sacrificial altar. Chapter 26. After crossing the Tigris River, Gilgamesh and Enkidu walked into a mountain called Zagros Mountain. The mountain was filled with cedar trees. Since Humbaba, the mythical creature of the forest, lived here, these cedar trees were growing very well. There were also signs of small animals moving around in the cedar forest. So this is the cedar forest where Humbaba lives. What a beautiful scenery. It seems like Humbaba lives up to its name as the mythical creature of the forest. Gilgamesh complimented without hesitation. Gilgamesh was never stingy with his compliments. Yes, I passed by this place when I was traveling. Although Humbaba is a mythical creature, Humbaba is not as ferocious as other mythical creatures. It only lives here quietly, guarding countless treasures. No one knows where it came from. I have never even heard of which mythical creature it is. Enkidu explained. Let's go. Let's deal with Humbaba first. We'll talk about the Hyenryong relic and the wood later. Gilgamesh said and started walking deeper into the forest. Enkidu hesitated for a while. He wanted to say something but gave up after giving it some thought. The two of them walked through the dense forest and arrived at an open space. They saw a gigantic mythical creature that was filled with the aura of the forest. The mythical creature was covered with green fur. Its head was like a deer's and its two huge antlers were like swords. Its body was like a bear's, but its gigantic body did not look barbaric. Instead, it gave off a special feeling of tranquility. That's a mythical creature. Gilgamesh said in disbelief. Yes, that's indeed the mythical creature of the forest, Humbaba. I was shocked when I first saw it. Although Humbaba is a mythical creature, for some unknown reason, Humbaba is not as ferocious as other mythical creatures. Enkidu explained to Gilgamesh. However, Gil, if our opponent is Humbaba, we can actually talk to it. Enkidu said thoughtfully. What do you mean? Gilgamesh asked in confusion. Fimbaba has a gentle temperament. If you don't provoke it, it's actually a very easy magical beast to get along with. Because the fir forest is too lush, some people once got lost in this forest. They were all let out of the forest by Fimbaba. This is also the reason why Fimbaba is said to be the divine beast of the forest. Enkidu turned to look at Fimbaba and continued. If it were me, I might be able to ask Fimbaba to hand over the treasures and Hyenryong's relic. I might even be able to bring some fir trees back to Uruk. We can protect the forest's mythological beast, Fimbaba, and also complete our mission. Isn't this the best of both worlds? After saying that, Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu happily. Gil, why are you looking at me like that? Is there a problem? Gilgamesh crossed his arms in front of his chest and said happily. As expected, Enkidu, you're becoming more and more like a human. Really? The reason why humans are called humans is because they have things that they need to protect. You're now racking your brains to think of a way to prevent us from getting into conflict with Fimbaba for me and Hyenryong. And you're becoming more emotional. You can be said to be a normal person now. Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu's eyes that were more human and said in detail. Is that so, Gil? But why am I so calm now? Enkidu's eyes were slightly moist. Isn't that natural? Who would be happy to become a human? You're already a human. Then Gilgamesh stopped smiling. Your plan is pretty good, but if Fimbaba doesn't listen to you, then there's only one way left. After saying that, he held Enkidu's hand and walked towards Fimbaba. Get ready for battle. Fimbaba looked at Gilgamesh and Enkidu. It had already noticed them when they entered the forest. Woo! Fimbaba let out a low cry. My friend, do you still remember me? I'm Enkidu. Enkidu walked in front of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh and Enkidu's beautiful bodies seemed so weak in front of Fimbaba. Woo! Fimbaba nodded and stretched its head in front of Enkidu and touched Enkidu lightly. Enkidu also boldly touched Fimbaba and smiled at Gilgamesh. Haha, Gil, look at Fimbaba, it's so cute. Come and touch it too. Really? Will it swallow you when you're not paying attention? Gilgamesh swallowed his saliva. At this moment, the Hero King turned into an obedient girl in front of this natural disaster. Ha, you don't look like the famous Hero King now, Gil. I'll touch it. What's there to be afraid of? Gilgamesh said as he reached out his hand and touched Fimbaba's nose. Gee! Fimbaba suddenly raised its head and sneezed. This scared Gilgamesh so much that he jumped back. Ha, Gil, you'll definitely itch when you touch its nose. Enkidu covered his mouth and laughed. Gilgamesh also relaxed his body and looked at Enkidu, who covered his mouth and laughed. My friend, you've really become a human. It seems that I don't have to worry anymore. After the farce ended, Enkidu and Gilgamesh told Fimbaba the reason why they came here. Fimbaba didn't disappoint Enkidu and said that as long as they passed the test it set up, they could take away the treasures it kept. As for the trees, Fimbaba said that it could quickly make the trees grow without any side effects, so they could take it away at will. After that, Gilgamesh and Enkidu passed the test very quickly. After all, both of them were not evil people. Naturally, they passed the test set up by Fimbaba very quickly. During the test of strength with Fimbaba, the cloth that Enkidu wrapped around Wuming's sacred sword, X-Silver, was damaged during the battle and revealed the X-Silver. Fimbaba ended the test in excitement and announced that both of them could take away the treasures it was guarding. Enkidu and Gilgamesh were confused about Fimbaba's excitement. Could it be that Master Hyenryong knows Fimbaba, and that's why he reacted to the X-Silver? Enkidu said as he hugged the X-Silver. Who knows? Maybe that guy owes Fimbaba money. That's why Fimbaba became excited when it sensed Hyenryong's aura. Gilgamesh joked. Alright, let's complete the task that Hyenryong gave us first. We'll talk about the rest later. Later, Fimbaba brought Gilgamesh and Enkidu to the treasure cave. Alright, let's get to work. Chapter 27. As he spoke, Gilgamesh placed one of his hands in front of him, as if he was holding something. He clenched his fist and turned it around. After a series of mechanical clicks, a strange sword appeared in Gilgamesh's hand. Rather than calling it a sword hilt, It was more like a tool handle. Rather than calling it the heart of the sword, it was more like a cylinder with a precise structure. This was the key of the king's law that Gilgamesh had. It was one of the treasures of Babylon, the key to open and close the gate of Babylon. The gate was connected to the golden capital of Babylon, and there were a lot of treasures inside. Open gate of Babylon. Following Gilgamesh's command, the key of the king's law began to move. The treasures in the cave were stored into the gate of Babylon one by one. Meanwhile, Enkidu was observing the weapons stored in the gate of Babylon to see if there were any weapons with Silver's aura. With meticulous manipulation, Gilgamesh and Enkidu took 3 days to store all the treasures into the gate of Babylon. However, the two of them began to discuss with a frown. Humbaba was lying on an empty ground, basking in the sun comfortably. Why isn't there any? It shouldn't be. Enkidu hugged Silver and leaned against Humbaba's stomach. Could it be that Hyenryong made a mistake? Gilgamesh leaned against a rock and rubbed his chin with one hand. I don't think so. After all, it's an important treasure of Master Hyenryong. There shouldn't be a mistake. After all, even Master Hyenryong knew that the noble phantasm was with Humbaba. Enkidu shook his head. As it heard its name, Humbaba, who was basking in the sun, let out a deep cry. Woo! Sorry for disturbing you. Ugh! After coaxing Humbaba to sleep, Gilgamesh complained. Enkidu, why don't I see you being so nice to me? Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu with resentment. Alright, let's not make a fuss. This is the first mission Hyenryong Sama has given us. We have to complete it seriously. Hyenryong wouldn't set up a question that can't be answered. Since he asked us to come here, it must be here. Gilgamesh and Enkidu fell silent and began to think. The sun slowly moved to the center. At this moment, Gilgamesh seemed to have realized something and suddenly said, by the way, do you remember what Hyenryong said about the mission? What did he say? Isn't it to defeat Humbaba and retrieve the noble relic? Enkidu seemed to have realized something too. Are you saying that the key to the problem is Humbaba? Enkidu asked. Yes, think about it. Hyenryong said to defeat Humbaba, retrieve the noble relic, retrieve the treasure, retrieve the tree, and return to Uruk. In other words, Hyenryong didn't say that his noble relic is in the treasure that Humbaba is guarding. It's on Humbaba's body. Gilgamesh and Enkidu looked at Humbaba, who was sleeping soundly. But where is Hyenryong Sama's noble relic on Humbaba? Its body is so big, there's no place to hide it. It can't be. It was eaten by Humbaba or... Gilgamesh finished Enkidu's sentence. Humbaba is the noble relic. Now that I think about it, it's possible. After all, Hyenryong Sama said to defeat Humbaba and retrieve the noble relic. There's a high possibility that Humbaba is Hyenryong's noble relic. This fits the reason why Humbaba suddenly appeared here. As if the mystery was solved, Gilgamesh and Enkidu let out a sigh of relief. The problem now is how to retrieve the noble relic. After all, it's impossible for us to kill Humbaba, but we can't let Humbaba follow us back to Uruk. Even if it's small, Humbaba might not follow us back. Gilgamesh facepalmed with one hand. That fella really knows how to create trouble for others. Why don't we go back and tell Hyenryong that his noble relic has become Humbaba? Enkidu looked at Gilgamesh and said, Sai, that's the only way. Okay. Gilgamesh agreed. No need. Suddenly, a young voice came from the dense forest. Who's there? Gilgamesh immediately opened the gate of Babylon on his back and aimed his sword at the dense forest. Enkidu stood up immediately and held the hilt of Silver with both of his hands, aiming it at the source of the voice. After some rustling, a young man with black hair and black eyes in a linen shirt walked out. He seemed to be about the same age as Gilgamesh and Enkidu. As for Humbaba, it raised its head and looked at the source of the voice. Its eyes were filled with excitement. After seeing the face of the newcomer, it immediately rushed over. Wait, Humbaba. However, what happened next shocked Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Woo woo woo, good. Humbaba's huge head kept rubbing against the young man, and the young man kept stroking the Humbaba. It was a scene of a master and a pet getting along well. Could it be? You're Hyenryong, master. Gilgamesh and Enkidu said in unison. Yo. Gilgamesh, Shaoan. Wuming stroked Fimbaba's head and raised his hand to greet Gilgamesh and Enkidu. At this moment, Gilgamesh and Enkidu were really stunned. So you turned back into a dragon because of that guy called Morgan Laffy, and now you can control your ability and turn back into a human? This was because Wuming told Gilgamesh and Enkidu the truth, and also told them his name. Therefore, Gilgamesh said with an "I'm very unhappy" expression. This is unbelievable, Xian. Master Wuming. Enkidu also looked shocked. After all, Wuming's transmigration was not something that anyone could do. About that, I'm sorry for hiding it from you for so long. Wuming smiled bitterly and kept apologizing. Don't expect me to forgive you so easily. Thieves who lie to the king must be punished severely. Gilgamesh stared at Wuming with her beautiful eyes. However, this did not make Wuming back down. Instead, he looked at Gilgamesh with interest. Alright Gil, Master Wuming didn't do it on purpose. Let's put this matter to rest. Nah, Enkidu smiled at the two of them and tilted his head. This made Wuming and Gilgamesh blush. After all, after Enkidu became a woman, her charm was too great. So is Fimbaba your noble phantasm, Wuming? Gilgamesh was still not used to Hyenryong's new name. She stuttered as she spoke. Well, actually, I only found the exact location of my noble phantasm. I only found out that Fimbaba was my noble phantasm when I secretly followed you guys here. No, strictly speaking, my noble phantasm and Fimbaba had merged. After Wuming saw Fimbaba, the connection between the noble phantasm and its owner was immediately connected. Therefore, Wuming finally confirmed that Fimbaba was the noble phantasm. Merged? Enkidu said. Yes, although I don't know, Fimbaba is my Yggdrasil. After saying that, Fimbaba rubbed Wuming again. Alright, let's go back. Fimbaba can continue to stay here. Wuming also hoped that his noble phantasm would be more flexible. Therefore, he decided to leave Fimbaba in the fir forest for the time being. Gilgamesh and Enkidu looked at each other and sighed. They did not say anything. After all, they had been busy for a few days because of Wuming's noble phantasm. Wuming asked Fimbaba to create a large number of trees. After that, Gilgamesh and Enkidu brought a large amount of wood back to Uruk. Meanwhile, Wuming transformed back into his dragon form and returned to the mountain palace. Chapter 28. After Gilgamesh and Enkidu returned to the Uruk with the wood, the news that the king had defeated the mythical beast of the forest, Fimbaba, obtained countless treasures, and returned with a large amount of wood began to spread like wildfire in Mesopotamia. It was as if someone was deliberately pushing the news. Of course, it was Wuming who pushed the news behind the scenes. His purpose was naturally to create prestige for Gilgamesh. As for Wuming, ever since he returned to his stone palace in the mountains, he had been staying at home and never came out again. However, Wuming would occasionally observe the Uruk through the statue of Hyenryong. To be honest, although Gilgamesh's rule had become brutal, the living conditions of the Uruk had become better. On a very peaceful day, a slight earthquake suddenly occurred in the Uruk. Half a day later, a god descended upon the Uruk. Because it was the year 2600 BC, although it was the end of the gods' era, there were still gods descending. In the gods' era, it was very rare for gods to descend. However, the ceremony still had to be held. Just as people were preparing the ceremony for this god directly rushed into Hyenryong's temple of worship. Dong! Suddenly, this god broke a hole in the roof of the temple. Hyenryong, come out! A voice filled with seduction was heard. Goddess Ishtar, please don't make a ruckus in Hyenryong's temple. Also, please pay for the broken roof after you leave. As the chief priest, Enkidu slowly walked out from the temple. It's you. Humph. Where's Hyenryong? Hurry up and ask him to come out and pay for his debt. Ishtar angrily said to Enkidu while floating in the air on the legendary heavenly boat, Anna. However, Ishtar seemed to have recognized Enkidu. Lord Hyenryong is here. If you're sincere, you can see him. If you're not sincere, you can't see him. Enkidu seemed to hate Ishtar very much, and his tone was very unpleasant. I don't care if he's sincere or not. If he doesn't come out, I'll smash his temple. Ishtar looked like she was about to fight. as if she was really going to smash this place. Who is it? Why are you so angry? Oh, it's Ishtar. What brings you here? A shadow appeared on the statue in the center, and Wuming temporarily possessed it. Yenryong. But the hero king you mentioned was a boy. Why is he a girl now? Ishtar angrily roared as if she had been deceived. Ahem, I thought you would come to me earlier. However, I was also kept in the dark about this. I didn't know that Gilgamesh was a girl. After all, Gilgamesh was only 3 years old when you met her. The shadow flickered. Wuming guessed that with Ishtar's personality, she must have gotten into some trouble that caused her to not pay attention to the Uruk for the past few years. To be honest, the past few years were just a nap for a god. Humph. Let me tell you, I've already destroyed Abifa Mountain. This is only the interest. I don't want anything else. I heard that the Hero King is a peerless beauty. If you let her follow me and become my maid, I might consider forgiving you. Who do you think you are? You want Gil to serve you? Enkidu's little face was filled with anger. That's right, Ishtar. Don't even think about Gilgamesh. I won't allow it. The stone statue emitted a powerful wave, and in an instant, Ishtar was subdued by this wave. All right then. Just you wait. Humph. After saying that, Ishtar rode the skyship horse Anna and left through the opening. With a flash of light, the shadow on the statue turned into a human figure and landed beside Enkidu. It seems that the earthquake from before was caused by the destruction of Abifa Mountain. Wuming said slowly. Lord Wuming, I heard that you've saved Abifa Mountain before. What was the reason? Enkidu asked curiously. I saved Abifa Mountain because of Gil. At that time, I brought the young Gil to Abifa Mountain for an adventure. Because Abifa Mountain is a spiritual mountain, I asked it to take care of Gil when he went up the mountain. When he went down the mountain, he met the goddess Ishtar. After realizing the goddess' intention, Gil said, Aren't you going to save him? Then on a whim, he made an agreement with Ishtar. That's how Abifa Mountain was able to survive until now. However, it still couldn't escape the fate of being destroyed by Ishtar. Wuming said helplessly. Actually, Abifa Mountain was supposed to disappear more than 10 years ago. Judging from the current situation, it's actually the same. Lord Wuming, you don't have to be sad about this. Enkidu comforted him. Wuming was stunned. He smiled and shook his head. He wanted to say something, but his mouth was suddenly stuck. Wuming suddenly thought of an idea. I'm so sad. I need a caring kiss to recover. This time, Enkidu was helpless. Really, Lord Wuming, are you a child? Although he said that, Enkidu still tiptoed and kissed Wuming on the lips. This time, Wuming was nervous again. After all, he only wanted to make a joke. He didn't expect Enkidu to really kiss him. However, Wuming wasn't the kind of person who wouldn't eat meat that was already in his mouth. Wuming hugged Enkidu, who was kissing with his eyes closed. This scared Enkidu so much that he wanted to retreat. However, Wuming's big hands directly hugged Enkidu. Enkidu was nervous at first, but then he wrapped his hands around Wuming's neck. The two of them started a French kiss in the hall. Wuming, I heard that Ishtar was here. What is she doing here? Suddenly, a clear female voice came from outside the hall. Wuming and Enkidu were so scared that they quickly separated from each other. Gilgamesh walked into the lookout hall. The first thing he saw was a blushing Enkidu and a nonchalant Wuming. Gilgamesh frowned and said, You guys are so strange. Did something happen when I wasn't here? Enkidu quickly waved his hands. However, there was still a lingering charm on his face that couldn't dissipate. How could that be? Right, Gil. Why did you come to the lookout hall? Yeah, Gil, did you miss me? Wuming also asked. No, to be precise, he was teasing him. Who would miss you? You narcissist. This made Gilgamesh's face turn red. However, he didn't care about what Gilgamesh had noticed before. I saw a stream of light crash into the lookout hall. I instantly guessed that it was Ishtar. However, what is she doing here? Although she is the Uruk city god, she hasn't appeared for a long time. I thought that guy was dead. Gilgamesh said with an arrogant expression. Wuming bet that if Ishtar heard this, she would definitely go crazy. She's here to settle old scores. She used the incident at Abifu Mountain many years ago to blackmail you. She said that she wants you to be her servant. Wuming said indifferently. What? Who does she think she is? She wants this king to be her servant. I am the hero king. How dare she humiliate me like this? Sure enough, there are no good gods. Gilgamesh was angry when he heard this. He also glared at Wuming. What does it have to do with me? Wuming thought. Although Ishtar was scared away by me, she must have gone to find her father god. With the god's love for Ishtar, plus the relationship between Enkidu and Gilgamesh, the gods will definitely take advantage of this opportunity. This time, the Uruk may face a disaster. Wuming frowned and said. Wuming Sama is right. I even suspect that Ishtar came to ask for Gil because of Father God Enkidu's idea. He wants to bring back Gil, who is the Sky Wedge. Enkidu's words were not unreasonable. After all, Enkidu's mission when he came to the Uruk was to bring Gilgamesh back to the gods. Well, I know. I will pay attention to the Uruk during this time. There is no other way. Just act according to the situation. Wuming looked at the stormy weather outside and said slowly. The Uruk is going to change. Chapter 29. Ever since Ishtar left, Wuming had started to set up various enchantments around the Uruk. After all, if the story of this world was the same as the one that Wuming knew, the mythical beast Sky Bull would descend soon. Although Gilgamesh and Enkidu had defeated the Sky Bull in the legends, the Sky Bull had wreaked havoc on the earth for 7 years. It was obvious how difficult it was to deal with a divine beast like the Sky Bull. After finishing the last rune, Wuming stood up. If that's the case, we should be able to reduce the Sky Bull's calamity. Wuming looked in the direction of the Uruk palace. I wonder how Gil and Shaoan's preparations are going. After Ishtar left, he helplessly told the two of them to prepare a chain to capture the bull of the sky. Since Enkidu was a man-made weapon, he volunteered to refine his own body. Because the purpose of my creation is to become Gil, who has 2/3 of his divinity, so my attribute is to restrain a god. Using my body to refine a chain will definitely be able to deal with a god. For the sake of the overall situation, and the fact that Enkidu's body wasn't severely damaged, Wuming decided to let Gil and Enkidu prepare to cast the chains, while Wuming carved the Lune runes to protect the Uruk. I think the god-opposing chains should be almost complete. After saying that, Wuming's figure flashed and disappeared. In the secret chamber of the Uruk palace, Gilgamesh and Enkidu continued to add their own magic power to the flame in the center of the secret room. A chain-like object was surging in the flame like a fire dragon. Suddenly, an illusion appeared in the room. After the illusion disappeared, Wuming's figure appeared in the room. Wuming, sir. Gilgamesh and Enkidu's eyes lit up. Is the chain completed? Wuming looked at the two of them. We're just one step away from dripping our blood into it, Enkidu replied. Let's start quickly. I have a feeling that the Sky Bull is coming, Wuming said seriously. The three of them stood around the flame, forming a tripod. Why do we have to drip our blood every time we forge? Wuming thought gloomily. The three of them used different methods to drip their blood into the flame. After the flame absorbed their power, the flame's color began to change continuously. In the end, the flame's flame's continuously changing color was absorbed into the chain. The chain rolled violently, and after waiting for a moment, the flame was extinguished. A silver chain with 2 golden wedges floated in the air. Wuming stretched out his hand, and the chain quickly flew into Wuming's hand like a bird returning to its nest. From now on you'll be called Heaven's Chain Enkidu, Wuming said. He ignored Gilgamesh and Enkidu's shocked expressions. After saying that, he threw the chain to Gilgamesh. After catching it in a hurry, Gilgamesh glared at him. What are you doing? Aren't you holding it? What if the Sky Bull comes? Wuming shook his head and said, This chain is for you to use, Gil. Wuming continued. Because Enkidu can't participate in the battle, I'm going to return to my dragon form to deal with the Sky Bull. Is that okay? Will it cause any harm to your body, Lord Wuming? Enkidu asked with concern. Wuming had told Gilgamesh and Enkidu the reason why Enkidu couldn't participate in the battle. In that case, Gilgamesh and Wuming would be the ones to deal with the Sky Bull. Even if the gods wanted to punish Gilgamesh, they wouldn't be able to do it. After all, they needed a king that could connect the gods and humans, and Gilgamesh was not a candidate. As for Wyrm, as the origin dragon, the gods were just ants. Well, that was in front of the adult, origin dragon. But even if it was Wyrm, he could still run away if he couldn't win. Don't worry, ever since I accidentally turned into my adult dragon form and used my own power to transform back, I've mastered the method to transform myself. Don't worry about me. Wyrm patted Enkidu's head and smiled. Enkidu blushed at first, but then he smiled. It's good that Lord Wyrm is fine. Looking at Wyrm and Enkidu, who were enjoying their lovey-dovey moment, Gilgamesh frowned and suddenly shouted, "Hey, why don't you find a place to show off your affection? Can't you see that I'm still here?" Gilgamesh snorted and walked out of the secret room with Enkidu. Is Gil jealous? Wyrm and Enkidu looked at each other and laughed. At this moment, in the sky above the Uruk, the wind and clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. The figure of a bull seemed to be coming out of the clouds. Gilgamesh hurriedly returned to the secret room. Wyrm, it seems like the bull of heaven you were talking about is here. Gilgamesh said with a serious expression. Let's go. Let's meet this bull. Moo. A loud sound that sounded like a bull's moo came from the clouds. A huge hoof of a bull fell from the clouds. A cloud of dust flew into the air. Dong. Then the full appearance of the sky bull was revealed. This was a divine ox with a graceful bearing, full of a peculiar sense of beauty. Its horns and hooves were all golden in color. Wherever it stepped, the ground began to dry up, and wherever it passed, the rivers began to dry up. This was the sky bull, the Uruk's bull of disaster. What? What's that? Is this God's punishment? God, please protect us. After seeing the disaster brought by the sky bull, the Uruk citizens began to worship the gods. Just as they knelt down and prayed to the gods, a golden light flew into the sky. Stand up and hide in your rooms. This is only a demon beast. Watch this king kill it. Gilgamesh had a silver chain wrapped around her arm. She waved her small hand and gave orders to the Uruk citizens. Although Gilgamesh's temperament changed greatly after she became an adult, she was still the Uruk hero king. Although the citizens were afraid of Gilgamesh, they trusted her more. They trusted their king. After the citizens hid, the chain on Gilgamesh's hand began to dance in the air. Crash! After the sound of chains colliding, the sky bull was tightly bound by the Enkidu. The sky bull couldn't help but howl angrily. Moo! It was hard to say whether the sky bull was powerful, or the Enkidu was weak. The sky bull was breaking free from the Enkidu bit by bit. Roar! At this moment, a powerful dragon's roar was heard. A silver-white, noble and mysterious dragon flew towards the direction of the bull of heaven. At this moment, the bolder Uruk citizens began to pay attention to this disaster. That's Lord Hyenryong. No one knew who said this, but the Uruk citizens walked out of their houses one by one, and began to pray to Wyrm. Wyrm began to fight with the sky bull. Both sides fought back and forth, but because of the Enkidu, the bull of heaven's strength was reduced by 80% to 90%. The bull of heaven was at a disadvantage. In the end, Wyrm's claw pierced through the sky bull's heart. Following the sky bull's low cry, the sky bull collapsed. Uruk citizens. This bull was created by the gods to destroy you. The gods no longer need you. Only I, the legendary origin dragon, the legendary dragon, have made a contract with your king, Gilgamesh, to protect you. Remember my words and worship your king. Hero King. Hero King. Hero King. Wyrm stood on the corpse of the sky bull, while Gilgamesh stood on Wyrm's head, and received the cheers of the Uruk citizens. The sun shone on Gilgamesh. At this moment, she was like a saintess, beautiful and powerful. Chapter 30. Inside Gilgamesh's dormitory. Gilgamesh had been in a bad mood ever since he defeated the bull of heaven. Enkidu brought a plate of fruits and placed it in front of Gilgamesh. Enkidu looked at the depressed Gilgamesh and couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong, Gil? You've been like this ever since you defeated the bull of heaven." Gilgamesh picked up a piece of fruit and bit into it. Sai Wuming was the one who took the credit for defeating the Bull of Heaven, but in the end, he let me receive the cheers of the people. If it wasn't for the Uruk, I wouldn't have accepted this kind of stolen credit. Enkidu sat next to Gilgamesh and held her hand. So you know it's for the Uruk people. Look, I even showed my face. But I'm the Hero King. How can I accept this kind of fake honor? Gilgamesh is such a tsundere. Enkidu thought to himself. Actually, this is your honor. Think about it. Lord Wuming is now inseparable from you. You're bound together for good or ill. It can be said that the two of you are now united. Don't you feel happy? Enkidu asked with a smile. Yes, Lord Wuming. Together. Together. Who wants to be with him? But if you think about it carefully, for the sake of the Uruk, I'll reluctantly accept it. Wuming, Sama was right. Gilgamesh is indeed the easiest woman to deal with in the entire Uruk. Enkidu thought. Oh right, where's the Bull of Heaven's corpse? Where did Wuming put it? Gilgamesh asked curiously. Master Wuming said that the Sky Bull's body is full of treasures. According to Master Wuming, the corpse of the Sky Bull has been sealed with a magic scroll for future use. Enkidu said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Why didn't I realize that Lord Wuming was so thrifty? By the way, Enkidu. Yes. What's wrong, Gil? As he spoke, Gilgamesh opened the gate of Babylon behind him, or rather, the gate of Babylon, and reached his hand into it as if he was groping for something. A moment later, a silver chain appeared in Gilgamesh's hand. The chain is. Here your stuff. After all, it was a chain forged from a part of Enkidu's body. So Gilgamesh believed that its owner was Enkidu. However, in this situation, Enkidu only smiled and pushed his hand away, rejecting Gilgamesh. This is the proof of our friendship. It belongs to you, Gil. Gilgamesh also smiled. I knew you would say that. However, this chain is more useful to Wuming, so I've decided to give it to him. Gilgamesh's words stunned Enkidu. That's right, as the origin dragon, Lord Wuming will definitely have countless adventures in the future. As a divine weapon, Enkidu will definitely be very useful. Gil, take this Enkidu. As for Master Wuming, I'll think of something. As he finished speaking, Enkidu's gaze became firm. Gilgamesh seemed to have noticed something. After a moment of silence, he sighed. You've decided. A few days later, Ishtar drove the heavenly ship Anna to the Hyenryong Palace once again. However, this time, Ishtar's attitude was very respectful. Although Enkidu did not like Ishtar, she still came to Wuming respectfully. Enkidu led Ishtar to the Hyenryong statue. Master Hyenryong, even if you win this time, can you return the corpse of the heavenly bull to me? An unnatural smile appeared on Ishtar's beautiful face. However, even if it was a forced smile, Ishtar was still a goddess of beauty. The figure of the Hyenryong statue appeared. Cough. You know, I've been hungry for a long time. Now that I saw such a big guy, I was excited and ate it. Sorry. Wuming said with a, I'm not full yet expression. You really know how to joke, Master Hyenryong. However, there's something I have to tell you. Enkidu is my father's child, so? Ishtar smiled mysteriously. Then, she immediately flew away from the Hyenryong sacrificial palace on the heavenly ship Anna. The dragon figure changed, and Wuming landed on the ground. Wuming looked at Ishtar's back as she left. He could not get over it for a long time. Could it be that the gods are going to attack you, Enkidu? Enkidu, who was standing at the side, only smiled calmly after hearing this. That beautiful face made Wuming feel like he was a god. Master Wuming, don't worry. Although I'm still a divine weapon created by the gods, because of you, I've become the human girl Enkidu. Enkidu leaned close to Wuming and hugged him. Enkidu is willing to become the heavenly lock and accompany you. Please forgive my willfulness, Master Wuming. After a while, Wuming also hugged Enkidu. You're such a silly girl. Gilgamesh stood outside the Hyenryong palace with his back against the wall. He looked at the sky. I wish you happiness, my friend. 3 days later, the gods used the chain used to subdue the heavenly bull for Enkidu. Gilgamesh and Hyenryong were essential figures in the Uruk. They decided to punish Enkidu by turning her back into dirt and returning her to the earth. Ever since the Uruk high priest Enkidu disappeared, The newly appointed high priest Du Shili discovered that there was an additional silver chain on the stone statue of Hyunryong. Because the stone statue was lifelike, and the silver chain made it look even more lively. Because of the pain of his friend's departure and the revelation given by Hyunryong, the Uruk king Gilgamesh abandoned his people and began his journey to find the immortal grass of immortality. After going through untold hardships to obtain the immortal grass, he was eaten by a snake because of his carelessness. King Gilgamesh was enlightened and returned to the Uruk, which was still prosperous because of Hyunryong's protection. He focused on governing the Uruk and died a good death. Hyunryong also protected the Uruk until the connection between the people and the gods was severed. In the end, the people abandoned Hyunryong. Hyunryong also abandoned the humans and left the Uruk. In the end, the Uruk dynasty was destroyed. The legend of the origin dragon, Uruk Hyunryong, began in a new place. Chapter 31. A huge dragon was flying in a colorful passage. A silver chain was wrapped around the dragon's arm. The wedges on both ends of the chain were swinging freely. While the dragon was flying, it noticed an unusually small energy source that was moving forward. Out of curiosity, the dragon rushed toward the energy source. What entered its sight was an energy ball. "What's this?" Wuming asked curiously. At the same time, Wuming's huge dragon claw grabbed at the energy source. Anyway, with the strength and characteristics of the root dragon's body, Wuming was not afraid of the space-time turbulence or space-time strangulation. Hence, Wuming boldly grabbed at the energy ball. Just as Wuming's dragon claw was about to touch the energy ball, it was as if the energy ball had reached its destination. A space-time door appeared in front of the energy ball. Usually, the space-time door would only appear when a certain existence reached a certain destination in the space-time tunnel. Just like when Wuming first came into contact with the space-time tunnel, when he first crossed over to the country of shadow. That was also the entrance to the space-time tunnel. However, it did not open the space-time door. Instead, it sucked Wuming in. If nothing went wrong, this energy ball would enter the door. Interesting. Wuming's claw reached out and grabbed the energy ball. The energy ball seemed to have no consciousness. It followed Wuming's claw and slowly fused with Wuming. At the same time, a stream of knowledge-like memories surged into Wuming's mind. This is a game. Wuming was slightly surprised. After all, I've encountered such a strange thing. How can I not take a look? With that, Wuming entered the space-time door that opened and disappeared. Then the space-time door closed as if it had never existed. Wuming opened his eyes. What entered his eyes was a huge hall. The hall was mainly dark. Flags of different designs were hung high on the ceiling. The top and the sides were covered with crystals that acted as light bulbs. Wuming was facing a huge, gorgeous door. A red carpet extended all the way to his feet. At this moment, Wuming was sitting on a crystal throne in his human form. The back of the throne extended all the way to the roof. The throne was on a platform with 3 steps. The carpet climbed up the steps to Wuming's throne. Below the platform stood an old man who looked like a butler. Behind him stood 6 maids in combat attire. Next to the throne, next to Wuming, there was a woman wearing a long white dress that covered her feet. There was a spiderweb-like golden silk ornament on her chest, and white silk gloves on her hands. Her beautiful black hair reached her waist, and there was a pair of white curved horns on both sides of her head. She looked like a demon, and there was a pair of black wings at the back of her waist. Wuming happened to recognize this creature. It was obviously a succubus. Seeing Wuming looking at her, the succubus smiled and asked, "What's wrong, Sir Wuming?" However, the smile on her face made Wuming feel awkward. He felt like he was being stared at. "I feel a slight fluctuation outside the underground tomb of Nazalek. Inform all the guardians to gather here tomorrow at this time." After that, Wuming got up and walked to the door. "Yes, Sir Wuming." The succubus smiled at Wuming. "You can do whatever you want with the rest of the time." "Yes, Sir Wuming." This was the answer from the rest of the people in the room. Creak. The heavy door was pushed open. Wuming opened the door in front of him. "Then let me calm down first." Following the data stored in his mind, Wuming came to a room. When he opened the door, he saw a luxurious royal bedroom. Wuming flew and threw himself on the luxurious bed in front of him. This is giving me a headache. What Nazalek, Yggdrasil, completely virtual reality game. The unknown energy ball that Wuming came into contact with in the time tunnel was actually a guild stronghold in a virtual reality game invented by humans in another world. The name of the guild was Nazalek's Underground Tomb. Because of the shutdown of the server, the guild leader guarded it alone until a second before the server shut down. Due to an unknown accident, the guild brought the soul of the human to this world. Because of Wuming's accidental contact, the soul of the human was repelled and sent back to the original world. Wuming replaced him and came to this world. Let's not talk about the power of this world first. I'm very curious about what interesting things will happen when the game transforms into a physical object. For example, even if the resurrection was considered a miracle in the world of the moon, it should be very common in the game. Then, what will happen when the game transforms into a physical object? Wuming turned around and patted his arm. Enkidu, are you okay? A silver chain appeared on Wuming's arm, flashing with a faint golden light. Yes, Master Wuming, I'm fine. I didn't expect to be able to travel with you. This chain was Enkidu's transformation. Previously in Uruk, Wuming used the Lune runes and his own transformation to successfully deceive the gods. After Enkidu used a secret technique to create the heaven lock, Enkidu, Wuming wrapped it around his hand. Rather than being put into Dragon's Nest, by Master Wuming, I'd rather be in Master Wuming's hand. Therefore, Wuming wrapped the heaven lock, Enkidu, around his hand. Wuming touched the heaven lock, Enkidu, and said slowly, "It's been hard on you, Xiaoan. No, to be able to follow Master Wuming. I was created as a weapon. My wish is to be treated as a person by Master, to be loved by Master, and to be used by Master. Right now I'm really happy." The heaven lock, Enkidu, flashed and spoke, revealing her everything. "Xiaoan, go and rest first. It's your first time going through the space-time tunnel, so you're probably still not used to it." "Yes, Master Wuming, I'll go and rest first." As she spoke, the heaven lock, Enkidu, dimmed and became the same as a normal chain. "Then, let's take a look at this guild's information." As he spoke, Wuming closed his eyes and began to look at the data in his mind. After a long time, Wuming opened his eyes. "I see this guild is quite interesting. The underground tomb of Nazalek was originally a checkpoint, but because it was conquered by the first members of Anziergong, the system reward became a stronghold, which was a guild. After the modification of the members of Anziergong's guild, it created the entire underground tomb of Nazalek, Anziergong's large guild. I wonder how strong the otherworld Anziergong transmigrated to is. I'll go and find out after tomorrow's meeting." As he spoke, Wuming fell asleep. Please don't dream of Merlin. Chapter 32. The next day, Wuming woke up early in the morning. Wuming had arrived at the underground tomb of Nazalek late last night. In addition, Wuming had traveled through time and space for a long time. After a night of rest, he was no longer tired. Because the order from yesterday was to gather at night, Wuming decided to walk around the underground tomb of Nazalek himself. Wuming picked up a ring from the table and put it on his finger. Moved to the first floor. In an instant, Wuming's figure flickered and disappeared. That ring was the guild ring of the underground tomb of Nazalek, Ainswergong. Other than entering the underground tomb of Nazalek to verify his identity, it also had the ability to move around the underground tomb of Nazalek without restriction. What entered his eyes was a hall filled with stone coffins. Stone pillars supported the hall, and were evenly distributed around the hall. The stone coffins were also distributed according to the ratio. Wuming could clearly sense that every sarcophagus had a magical reaction, as well as the reactions of unseen creatures around them. They were probably the monsters guarding the first floor of the underground tomb of Nazalek. As expected of the underground tomb of Nazalek. Let's not talk about the strength of these monsters. Just looking at them is enough to scare people. Wuming didn't care about this and continued to walk toward the door of the hall. As soon as he walked out, he saw a slightly desolate courtyard. Although it was called a courtyard, it was actually a graveyard. Stone tablets were erected in the courtyard. Needless to say, the ground in the courtyard was filled with monsters. The courtyard was surrounded by a 3-meter-tall wall. In front of Wuming was the entrance to the graveyard. At this moment, it was daytime in this world. Wuming looked at the vast sky and couldn't help but sigh. As expected, no matter which world it is, the sky is beautiful. After staying on the first floor for a while, Wuming observed the second to the 8th floor. He had to admit that the people of Ainsworgong had all kinds of strange tastes. There were a total of 10 levels in Nazalik's underground tomb. The first 3 levels were the graveyard, which fit the name of a tomb. The 4th floor was a massive underground lake. This floor was a little special, as there were no NPCs here. This was because the NPC on this floor was Graham, a large stone puppet with no self-awareness. Activating it required a lot of time. The 5th level was an ice field, where the cold winds were fierce and bone-chilling. The 6th floor was a jungle, but there was an arena in the middle of the jungle. The structure was very similar to the Colosseum in Rome. The 7th floor was a lava zone, and the temperature was frighteningly high. The 8th floor was a wasteland. The NPCs on this floor were also special. As for what was special about them, that would be explained later. The 9th floor, which was the floor where Wuming had slept last night, was a royal suite. After all, this was originally a guild stronghold in the game. Players would also enjoy it, so this floor was set up. The 10th floor was between the thrones that Wuming had been in when he arrived at the underground tomb of Nazalek yesterday. This floor was the room. It wasn't big and was only used for decoration. After all, the players discussed things on the 9th floor. The 10th floor was just a symbolic building. After strolling around, it was almost time for the scheduled gathering. Wuming directly teleported to the throne on the 10th floor. The scene in front of him changed, and Wuming arrived in front of the throne. There were all kinds of members of the opposite sex gathered under the throne. Demons, bugmen, dark elves, vampires, and so on. He saw the succubus who had served the throne yesterday arguing with a girl in a dark purple princess dress. The girl's skin was as pale as a corpse. Only the skin on her hands and face was exposed. The rest of her body was wrapped in clothes. Her silver hair was tied into a ponytail behind her head, and the princess dress on her lower body bulged like a cake. I remember. She seems to be the guardian of the 1st to 3rd floors. Because they saw Wuming's arrival, everyone quickly stood in a row. Everyone, offer your loyalty to the Supreme One. The succubus ordered, and the guardians began to kneel on one knee to greet Wuming. Guardian of the 1st, 2nd and 3rd floors, Shadia Bradford. Greetings, Lord Wuming. The first was the girl who was arguing with the succubus. Guardian of the 5th floor, Cositas. Greetings, Lord Wuming. Cositas was a huge blue insect with iceberg-like armor on its back and shoulders. Guardian of the 6th floor, Yambella Fiora. Greetings, Lord Wuming. A dark elf who wore men's clothes and spoke cheerfully and looked like a boy. Same guardian of the 6th floor, Mare Bella Fiora. Greetings, Lord Wuming. This was a dark elf who wore women's clothes and spoke shyly and nervously, looking like a girl. The guardians of the 6th floor were a pair of dark elf twins. That's right, the older sister in men's clothes and the younger brother in women's clothes. If Wuming hadn't read the information, he wouldn't have thought that the nervous, shy, introverted mare in cute women's clothes was a boy. Guardian of the 7th floor, Demiugos. Greetings, Lord Wuming. Demiugos wore a British suit and had a metal tail on his back. The tip of the tail was burning with a faint black flame. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and had slightly pointed ears. If one didn't look at the tail behind him, anyone would think that he was an outstanding businessman. Chief Guardian Yerbella. Greetings, Lord Wuming. The succubus from yesterday, Yerbella, lowered her head and reported to Wuming. What's going on? This gaze is comparable to Maeve's. I really don't know what the player who designed Yerbella is doing. Other than the guardian of the 4th floor, Kagandua, and the guardian of the 8th floor, Victim, all the guardians of the other floors are in front of you. Supreme, please give the order. We will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Wuming sat on the throne and looked at them quietly. After a moment, Wuming spoke. The main reason I called you here today is to tell you about the situation in the underground tomb of Nazalek. The guardians raised their heads slightly and looked up at Wuming. The underground tomb of Nazalek has been moved to another world, due to an accident. Looking around at the guardians, Wuming continued. I took a look this morning. The underground tomb of Nazalek is on a plain. There are no signs of activity within a kilometer of it. This is undoubtedly a good thing. The reason why Wuming stayed on the first floor was because Wuming used magic to detect the surroundings of the tomb. As aberrations, if we were moved to a human gathering place, it would be troublesome. In the game Yggdrasil, there were only 3 races for players: humans, subhumans, and aberrations. Humans were categorized as dwarves, elves, and so on. Subhumans were categorized as goblins, ogres, and so on. As long as they were not humans or subhumans, they were all aberrations. For example, slimes, bugmen, demons, and so on. Of course, Wuming was a dragon in the minds of these NPCs. He used a secret technique to switch between human and dragon forms. From now on, the underground tomb of Nazalek is on the highest alert. Yes, Lord Wuming. Now let's talk about your problems. Chapter 33. There was a long hole in the wall in front of Wuming that looked like a cupboard. There was a twisted scepter floating in the hole. The tip of the scepter was in the shape of a cup, and there were 7 snakes coiled clockwise in the cup. Finally, the snake heads poked out of the cup, and each snake had a gem in its mouth. The 7 gems of different colors shone with a mesmerizing light. Wuming reached out his hand, and the scepter automatically floated into Wuming's hand. Holding the twisted scepter, Wuming looked at the twisted black and purple souls that appeared in the cup of the scepter. He could not help but feel helpless at Ain's Ergong's bad taste. This should be a guild weapon, right? The so-called guild weapon referred to the core of a guild. Once the guild weapon was destroyed, the guild would disintegrate. Therefore, guild weapons were usually placed in the core of the guild for protection. However, Ain's Ergong's guild weapon was a powerful weapon. According to the information, the staff of Ain's Ergong itself was a divine weapon. The 7 gems in the 7 snakes at the tip of the scepter were also rare divine weapons, and it was a set of equipment. The power of the 7 gems was not just 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 7, but it was far greater than that. This made the staff of Ain's Ergong comparable to a world-class item, or even greater. Yggdrasil World Tree. S weapon grade classification was as follows: low grade, mid grade, high grade, heritage grade, relic, legendary grade, and divine weapons. Divine weapons were generally top grade, but Yggdrasil World Tree had world-class items. The so-called world-class items were the 200 top-grade items in Yggdrasil World Tree. The power of these top-grade items could only be matched by other world-class items. Among the 200 top-grade items, the strongest 20 world-class items were specially called 20. These 20 items had the ability to severely disrupt the game's balance. Because of this, these 20 world-class items could only be used once. After using them, they would disappear. In the game, these 20 world-class items would disappear after being used. After that, they would reappear somewhere in the Yggdrasil World Tree. According to Wuming's memories, Ain's Ergong was the guild with the highest number of world-class items. They currently had a total of 11 world-class items. Originally, they had 12 world-class items, but one of them was taken away by an enemy guild. In the Yggdrasil game, the guild with the second highest number only had 3 world-class items. From this, it could be seen how powerful Ain's Wugong was. Among the 11 world-class items that belonged to Ain's Wugong, 2 of them were ranked 20 world-class items. These 2 world-class items were stipulated by the guild members that they could only be used when the enemy used an item of the same level. The staff of Anziergen? Wuming could not help but sigh. Wuming couldn't help but think as he looked at the large amount of information about the scepter. The people of Ain's Ergong must really love their guild. After all, the process of making this scepter was too difficult. If it were not for the difficulties of daily life, Wuming believed that the members of Ain's Gong would have persevered until the server was shut down. If that's the case, let me strengthen the name of Ain's Gong, Wuming said as he raised the staff of Anziergen. This could be considered as a form of consolation for these NPCs who had lost their parents. After Wuming stored the staff of Anziergen into Dragonist, Dragon's Nest, he used the ring of Anziergen to teleport to an office-like room. At this moment, Demiugos was already waiting in the office. Seeing Wuming arrive, Demiugos quickly knelt down on one knee. Master Wuming. Wuming waved his hand to signal Demiugos to get up. Get up, Demiugos. You don't have to kneel every time you see me, just bow. Yes, Master Wuming. Demiugos stood up and put the paper in his hand on the desk. Master Wuming. These are the statistics of Nazarik's underground tomb, and the preparation plan for exploring the surroundings of Nasarik. Please take a look. Hearing this, Wuming sat in the office chair behind the desk. He picked up the information that Demiugos had compiled and began to read. Overall, the overall performance of Nazarik's underground tomb hasn't changed, but the consumption of gold coins is lacking. Wuming asked without raising his head. Why is Nasarik running out of gold coins? Demiugos also shook his head. No, after the other Guardians and I tested all of Nazarik's production performance, we only suffered a slight loss of gold coins. However, we can no longer obtain Yggdrasil, World Tree gold coins. After a while, Nasarik will be in danger. I don't know if the gold coins of this world can be used for Nazarik's underground tomb, so I have stopped the consumption of unimportant gold coins. Wuming, who was still flipping through the information, heard this and the emblem on his arm flashed. Crash. A bag of jewelry and gold nuggets fell on the table. This is the treasure I collected from other places. Go and see if it can be used for Nazarik's operation. Yes. Demiugos picked up the bag on the table. Regarding the exploration of Nazarik's surroundings, cancel the plan. I will go personally. Demiugos was shocked and knelt down on one knee. No, how can we let Lord Wuming take the risk? If you are worried, you can let us Guardians explore. Please take back your order. Putting down the information, Wuming said helplessly. Don't worry, Demiugos, I will bring my men. In the current situation, it is wise to send the highest combat power. If there is an existence that even I can't defeat, it will be useless even if you go. Lord Wuming, you also said that there is an existence that even you can't defeat, so it is wise for us to explore. After that, Wuming and Demiugos did not speak. A moment later. Get up, Demiugos, I have made up my mind. At worst, I will bring Yerbed. Yerbed was Nazarik's guardian, so he had the strongest defense. Whether it was his own defense or the protection of a specific person, Yerbed had the strongest defense. Yes, Lord Wuming, I wish you the best of luck. That's all. The plan will be implemented in 3 days. Let's first operate Nasarik properly. Yes. Then please forgive me for taking my leave. Go ahead. Demiugos turned around and left the office. After that, Wuming leaned on the soft back of the chair and let out a long sigh of relief. This is a different world, a different world. How can I not take the risk? I am a traveler. 3 days later. In the library on the 9th floor, Wuming was tidying up all kinds of magic books. After all, there were many practical spells in Yggdrasil, such as detection, anti-reconnaissance spells, and teleportation gates, which were more practical for Wuming. Alright, that's all for now. As expected of one of the strongest guilds, the members of Ain's Wugong really can't be underestimated. There were a lot of books in the library, although more than half of the books were biographies and background stories, and some of them were guides. Magic books only took up a small portion, but the number of books was still shocking. Wuming had been reading for the past 3 days. He had only spent some time organizing the books to be stored in Dragonist, but the collection of books did not affect the library at all. Yerbed should be waiting for me in the throne room now. As he spoke, the ring of Ain's Wugong on Wuming's hand lit up, and Wuming disappeared. Wuming's journey to the other world was about to begin. Chapter 34. On the Endless Grassland. A green creature that looked like a bear or a deer was running. Taking a closer look, the creature carried two people on its back, a man and a woman. The man had black hair and black eyes. He was wearing Sumer-style clothes and looked very exotic. The woman had black hair and golden vertical pupils. She had two twisted horns on her head. She was wearing a white dress and had a pair of black wings behind her waist and abdomen. Although the woman was beautiful, she was obviously not human. What a strange magical beast, Lord Wyrm. Yair Abed sat on Fimbaba's back and praised. Is that so? Is there no such magical beast in Yggdrasil? Wyrm lay on Fimbaba's back and basked in the sun. Well, although there are similar magical beasts, I have never heard of weapons and equipment turning into magical beasts. That's right, Fimbaba was the magical beast Fimbaba, that Wyrm took away when he left Babylon. It had already fused with Yggdrasil. Because the grassland was relatively large, Demiurgos chose a mount for Wyrm to travel on. After Wyrm refused, he took Yggdrasil out of Dragonist and made it appear as Fimbaba. Under the amazed gaze of the guardians, Wyrm held the hand of Yair Abed, who had no regrets in his life, and sat on Fimbaba's back. After that, before the guardians could react, Wyrm used the ring to teleport to the first floor of the great underground tomb of Nasarek, directly avoiding the guards that the guardians had assigned to Wyrm. In the midst of the chaos, Wyrm successfully escaped from Nasarek with Yair Abed. Now that I think about it, I have to let them complain for a while when I go back. Wyrm patted Fimbaba's back and said directly, Fimbaba, determine the direction of someone's life and move in that direction. Woo! Fimbaba let out a low cry and ran faster. Because of Fimbaba's special ability and Yggdrasil's ability, Fimbaba could control things with the wood attribute, including detection and so on. Therefore, Wyrm handed the task of finding people around Nasarek to Fimbaba. By the way, just call me Villo in front of outsiders. Yes, Lord Wyrm. Yair Abed should lie down too. Fimbaba's back is very comfortable. Hearing this, Yair Abed's eyes lit up, and his expression became terrifying. Yes. Lord Wyrm. Hey. What are you doing? Lie over there, don't be afraid to lie on me. That won't do, Lord Wyrm. In order to prevent an enemy attack, I have to stay close to protect him. I think you're just taking advantage of me. Go away. Lord Wyrm, what the hell is going on? Fimbaba, who was running, shook its head helplessly like a human and increased its speed again. Soon, Fimbaba stopped in a forest that was not too dense. Wyrm, who was on its back, panted tiredly. Yair Abed, stop first. There's a situation in front. Yair Abed's face was also flushed, and he was panting heavily. Yes, Lord Wyrm. Wyrm got down from Fimbaba's back and wanted to walk forward. What's going on with Yair Abed's character? Is the player who designed her a pervert? After getting rid of the messy thoughts in his heart, Wyrm looked forward. Wyrm took a closer look. Houses were lined up on a flat ground. There weren't many of them, only the number of a village. Although the houses were simple, they were full of vitality. However, the ground and walls of the village were now full of dark red liquid, which was disgusting. That's blood. Knights in full-body armor wielded swords and killed unarmed villagers one after another. At this moment, a pair of sisters escaped from the village in the direction of this forest. However, behind the two of them were two soldiers. Coincidentally, the younger sister of the sisters fell because she was too young. Quick. Nim, get up quickly. We have to get out of here quickly. Because she often did farm work, the older sister's physical fitness was obviously much better than the younger sister. She pulled the younger sister up from the ground with a little strength. Okay, I know, sister. Nim said while holding back her tears. Okay, let's run. Just as the older sister was about to pull the younger sister and run again, an exasperated voice sounded. Run. Where do you think you're going? A knight who slaughtered the villagers stood behind the sisters. I can't believe I was delayed by you two brats. I'm so angry. The knight roared and swung his sword at the sisters. Nim, the older sister, quickly hugged the younger sister. At the same time, she also closed her eyes. Clang. The expected pain did not come. Instead, there was a sound of metal colliding. How is this possible? The knight let out a panicked voice. The young girl boldly turned around and saw a black-haired, black-eyed young man wearing a foreign race's costume standing in front of the knight. The knight's sword was firmly held by the young man. Seeing this, the young girl widened her eyes. I thought it was some special event. In the end, this is some high-level conspiracy. Wuming said in boredom. With Wuming's many years of experience in politics, he could almost guess why the knight slaughtered the villagers for no reason. Just in time to try out the magic I learned these few days. Wuming exerted force in his hand and said softly, "Dragon thunder." A large amount of blue lightning emerged from Wuming's body and passed through the sword in Wuming's hand to the knight's body. Ah! The knight screamed and then fell to the ground. His body was emitting black smoke as if he was roasted. Seems like the strength of this world isn't very high. Wuming thought. Monster. The other knight who was chasing after saw his companion die in an instant. He screamed in fear and turned around to escape. Wuming waved his hand. The knight who did not have time to escape was instantly wrapped by thick vines that grew out from the ground. Blood flowed out from the gaps in the vines. Seriously, can a knight like you be called a knight? You're a disgrace to the knights. Wuming said in disdain. Woo. Funbaba slowly walked out from behind Wuming. So beautiful. The two sisters who had never seen such a sacred Funbaba exclaimed. Wuming laughed involuntarily. After all, Funbaba was known as a divine beast. Are you two okay? Wuming asked. We're fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. As the elder sister, the girl quickly thanked Wuming. The younger sister next to her also did the same. Right, sir, please save our villagers. After the girl thanked Wuming, she suddenly remembered the villagers who were still suffering and sorrowfully begged Wuming. Please. The girl's younger sister continued in her slightly clumsy but cute way. Wuming looked at the two sisters and said sternly, I know you two, come with me. Thank you, sir. Just as Wuming was about to leave with the two sisters, Wyrm, who had finished changing his equipment, suddenly spoke. Please wait, Sir Villo. Chapter 35. What's wrong, Wyrm? Wuming asked. Wuming looked at Wyrm, who was wearing a full body armor, and asked, Lord Vero, you are an honorable supreme. These lowly humans are not worthy of your protection. Please allow me to execute them. Then Wyrm raised the black axe in his hand. Wait a minute, Wyrm. Wuming sighed helplessly. Whether they are worthy of my protection or not, let's talk about it after the crusade against the enemy. After a moment of silence, Wyrm put down his axe. Yes, Lord Wuming. The sisters looked at the master and servant in front of them, as if they hadn't reacted yet, and didn't say anything. Funbaba. Woo. With Wuming's order, Funbaba behind him began to move toward the village. The scene changed, and the armored knights were still wantonly slaughtering the villagers. Screams, cries of fear, begging for mercy, and wild laughter were incessant. Suddenly, one of the knights seemed to have encountered something and let out a scream. What happened? A knight who seemed to be a captain and didn't have a mask on his helmet shouted. What is this? Don't come over. Many huge vines as thick as a person grew under the feet of the knights, and wrapped around the soldiers one after another. The knights screamed and began to pray to the gods. God, please save me. My God, Lord God. Then, the knights who were wrapped by the vines stopped making any noise. Only the huge tree stumps formed by the vines were left. What the hell is this? The captain was still rational and began to issue orders. Prepare to retreat. Send the signal for the horses and archers to come over. However, it was already too late. The huge vines sped up their growth, and soon, all the knights' feet were entangled. Quick! Come and save me. Another guy, who was also not wearing a mask like the captain, shouted from the side. I'm not someone who should die here. Quick! Save me. No matter what, it doesn't matter if it's your health or anything else. Hurry up and save me. The squad leader couldn't believe that the guy who was yelling hysterically could be heard. Captain Balius, he said in surprise. Suddenly a light, low voice was heard. Woo! A huge green creature that looked like a bear or a deer slowly walked over. What is that? The captain, who was still rational, asked in surprise. The green creature stomped its foot, and the vines instantly wrapped around the wailing knights. In an instant, only the captain, who was still rational, was left. The sword in the captain's hand fell to the ground. He had completely given up. The vines had already wrapped around his lower body. Don't worry, those soldiers are still alive. The squad leader raised his head in surprise to see a young man walking over from afar. After all, I still need to obtain information from you. Wyrm waved his hand, and vines began to slowly wrap around the knight's upper body. Is that so? Thank you for sparing my life. However, I believe that my companion won't do anything. Ugh! The vines had completely wrapped around the soldier. You're the only one who still looks like a knight, Wyrm said calmly. The rest of the villagers fell into a dead silence. After a while, under the arrangement of the village chief, the villagers temporarily rested in the undamaged houses. The village chief, on the other hand, welcomed Wyrm. In the village chief's house, Wyrm picked up the simple cup of water provided by the village chief, took a sip, and listened to the village chief introduce the village. Khan village? Is it? Yes, Khan village's geographical location is not very good. It happens to be in the middle of 3 countries. The village chief said with a hint of sadness. After some questioning, Wyrm lied that he was a magic chanter who cultivated deep in the mountains. Wyrm originally said that he was a magician, but it seemed that in this world, people who used magic and magic were called magic chanters, so Wyrm called himself a magic chanter. Wyrm used information as a reward to offset the village chief's suspicion. After all, in this village where no one knew when something would happen, it was really hard to be at ease. According to the village chief, Khan village belonged to the Restige kingdom, and was located in the southeast corner of the kingdom. The Restige kingdom, the Bahaz Empire, and the human supremacy of the Syrian theocracy were located in the middle of the mountain range that ran through the north and south. According to the map provided by the village chief, the kingdom was in the northwest corner, the empire was in the northeast, and the theocracy was in the south of the 2 kingdoms. Khan village was in the middle of the 3 kingdoms. The kingdom and the empire were not on good terms, and there would be war all year round. The location of the war was in the plains near the border city of the Restige kingdom, Yalantir. According to the village chief, the knights who slaughtered the villagers were given the empire's badge, so it could be inferred that it was the empire's so-called. However, Wyrm felt that it was not that simple. After all, the village chief also said that the kingdom and the empire were at war all year round, and there was no benefit for the empire to slaughter the villages at the border of the kingdom. Moreover, these knights were praying to the gods before they were wrapped in vines. It seems that I have fallen into some conspiracy again. After asking the village chief for the necessary information, Wyrm bid farewell to the village chief and went out. Lord Wyrm. Wyrm had been guarding outside the door. As for Funbaba, Wyrm asked it to check if there were any other enemies in the surroundings. After all, the captain just said that he was going to send a signal. I have gathered enough information. In short, the underground tomb of Nasarek is safe in this world for the time being. Yes. What should we do with the inferior creatures that were captured by your magic beasts? Wyrm pondered for a moment and asked. Summon the subordinates of Nasarek who have special invisibility skills and transport all the knights to Nasarek. Funbaba just told me that there are still some knights nearby that have been captured by Funbaba. Also, transport those knights to Nasarek and get more information from them. Yes, Lord Wyrm. I will contact Demiugos right away. Wyrm placed his hand on his temple near his ear, and began to contact Demiugos. Oh right, remember not to kill them first. Also, do some anti-reconnaissance work. After all, we don't know if these people have tracking magic or something like that on them. Yes, Lord Wyrm. After saying that, Wyrm walked away and began to walk around the village. As he walked, Wyrm heard a lot of crying. Wyrm looked and saw that it was the families of the dead villagers. Among them were the sisters that Wyrm saved. They were crying on the corpses of their loved ones. I am used to seeing people die, In the end, I still can't help but feel melancholy over tears. Whether it was in Connaught or Camelot, Wuming was used to seeing all kinds of deaths. In the end, Wuming still felt melancholy over these things. It wasn't that he was sad. It was just that he couldn't stand it. I remember that your name is Only, right? Wuming half squatted in front of the sister that Wuming saved. Yes. Yes, Lord. The girl named Only choked and said, "Don't cry. In any case, I am a powerful magic caster. I have a way to revive your loved ones." As soon as he said that, the villagers who had lost their loved ones all knelt on the ground and begged Wuming. "Lord Villo, please save my son. Lord Villo, please save my sister." "All right, all of you get up. Move the villagers' corpses to an empty space." Hearing that, the villagers started to move. Yerbade, who had finished talking with Demi Rogoth, walked over and asked Wuming in confusion, Lord Villo, are you going to use a rare resurrection tool to revive these lowly worms?" Hearing that, Wuming couldn't help but laugh. "All right, Yerbade. Although I am not a human, I like humans very much. Moreover, I am going to use the resurrection magic that I have learned. I will not use a resurrection tool. Besides, I don't have one." "But Lord Villo—" "All right, Yerbade." Wuming interrupted Yerbade's speech. "If I die, you will definitely try your best to revive me, just like how these villagers begged me. Put yourself in my shoes and forgive my stubbornness." After that, Yerbade didn't say anything else. Chapter 36. The villagers had already moved the corpses to the village square. Everyone made way for Wuming and waited quietly for him to cast the spell. Although I also learned a resurrection spell because of interest, I have never tried it before. I don't know if it will work on these villagers. Wuming shook his head and walked forward. The sixth order spell, Angel's Return. Wuming accidentally saw this spell in Nazarik's library. In the Yggdrasil, world tree, magic was divided into 10 levels. There were 1st to 10th level spells. In Yggdrasil, there was also a supreme level spell, which was the 11th level spell. Supreme level spells were more like skills than magic. There were many restrictions. Not only did it take time to cast, but there was also a limit to the number of times it could be used per day, and it could not be cast continuously. The cooldown after casting could not be offset in Yggdrasil, whether it was a Krypton item or something else, it could not offset the cooldown time. Of course, these were all obtained from Wuming's data memory. Wuming chanted the name of the spell, waved his hand, and a holy light rose into the sky. The light shot into the sky and gathered into a large sacred cloud. The cloud transformed into the appearance of an angel. A large number of sacred white feathers slowly fell on the villagers' corpses and integrated into the villagers' bodies. The angel made a sacred and indescribable sound toward the sky and dissipated. After the villagers' corpses merged with the feathers, the wounds on their bodies disappeared, and their skin color changed from pale to healthy. Under the villagers' excited eyes, the corpses that were originally lying on the ground opened their eyes one by one. The family members of the resurrected villagers, including Only and her sister, rushed up with the villagers' cheers and hugged their family members fiercely. The sixth order spell is so powerful, it scared me. It seems that I have to go back to Nasarik to find some items to use. Wuming did not expect this spell to be so amazing. After all, the Dragon Thunder that Wuming used before was also a sixth order spell. Wuming-sama, Yauda has been waiting outside the village with the special forces. At this time, Yauda walked behind Wuming. "Stay low for now, I don't think it will be so simple this time." "Yes." Wuming couldn't help but sigh as he turned to look at the villagers who were crying with joy. "To be able to see you all so happy, my efforts have not been in vain." After all, ever since Wuming could remember, he had always thought that he was a human being. After knowing that he wasn't, Wuming still had special feelings for humans. After settling down the villagers who had just been revived, the village chief grabbed Wuming's hand and thanked him profusely. "Thank you so much, Sir Villo." Wuming felt a little helpless against such a village chief. All right. Village chief, you've thanked me enough." "Village chief, you've just suffered a disaster. You should go and arrange the situation of the village. All right, Sir Villo. Thank you so much. Just as Wuming was about to say something polite, a villager suddenly ran over. Not good, village chief. A group of cavalrymen is approaching. What? This. Sir Villo. Seeing the village chief's expression, how could Wuming not know what was going on? I understand, village chief. Let the villagers hide first. I'll go with you to see what's going on. All right. After a while, Wuming and the village chief stood at the entrance of the village. A group of cavalrymen with different equipment rode over. The leader was a man in his 30s. The man rode his horse to the front of Wuming and the village chief and said, I'm Gejef Stolanov, the head warrior of the Riesti kingdom. I heard that there were cavalrymen from the empire causing trouble nearby. I've been ordered by the king to suppress them. I'm currently patrolling the villages. The head warrior of the kingdom, the village chief said in shock. Wuming looked at the village chief in confusion. The village chief hurriedly said, That. I've only heard that the head warrior of the kingdom is the strongest man in the kingdom. That's just the king's love and respect. It's just a title, not worth mentioning. Gejef looked at Wuming again. May I know who you are? Nice to meet you, head warrior of the kingdom. My name is Villo Silenst. I'm a magic chanter who was passing by and saw the village chief being slaughtered. I'm here to help. As if he heard something unbelievable, Gejef quickly got off his horse and walked to Wuming. He held Wuming's hands. Thank you so much for saving this village. Looking at Gejef's sincere eyes, Wuming was stunned for a moment. Seems like he's a good official who cares about the people. I'll save him. You're welcome, head warrior. Suddenly, someone from Gejef's troop ran over. Head warrior, there are many figures nearby. They're closing in on the village. Seeing this, everyone frowned. Seems like someone can't sit still. Soon, Gejef's troop and Wuming retreated to the outermost house of the village chief. Wuming looked at Gejef, who was observing the situation outside, and asked directly, Who are those people outside? Gejef retracted his gaze and looked at Wuming. To be able to mobilize so many magic chanters, it could only be the Celian cult. And it's a special troop directly under the head priest, one of the Celian cult's 6-color holy books. After hearing this, it seemed to confirm Wuming's thoughts. Seems like they're coming for you, head warrior. Gejef was stunned for a moment. After thinking carefully, he realized that they were really coming for him. Oh, I didn't expect the cult to want to get rid of me. After that, Wuming said with a smile. You're very lucky, head warrior. What do you mean? Gejef was puzzled. Seeing that you have a good temper, I've decided to help you. Hearing this, Gejef was overjoyed. Really, Lord Silenst? Thank you so much. After all, Gejef and the others had learned from the village chief that Wuming had a very powerful magic beast. Then, head warrior, please wait for me here. As he said that, Wuming began to walk out of the house. Wait, Lord Silenst. No matter what, they have the advantage in numbers. Please don't be rash. Gejef still felt that it was better to be cautious and advised Wuming. Don't worry, head warrior. Also, just call me Villo. Silenst is too long. As he said that, he left the house with Bade and advanced towards the enemy. Lord Villo. Gejef looked at the two with a complicated gaze. Slowly, Wuming brought Bade to a very close distance with the enemy. The enemy did not seem to be afraid of Wuming, and did not stop them. Suddenly, the atmosphere was tense. Chapter 37. Negan Gullible Lewin, as the head sergeant of the Light Scripture, one of the 6-color scriptures of the Celian theocracy, Negan never thought that he would fail or die in a place like this. After all, he was the head priest of the Light Scripture. The report said that the knight who was wrapped in vines was killed by the demonic beast under the command of that man. Negan looked at the man and woman walking over, and immediately gave an order. Attack. The other priests immediately took action. The mechanical creatures that looked like angels raised their lightsabers, and flew towards Wuming and Bade. However, when these angels approached the two, they were destroyed by an invisible attack. They turned into starlight and disappeared in the air. What? Not only was Negan shocked, but the other priests were also shocked. The angel army was destroyed in an instant, and it was done using an unknown method. A sense of crisis rushed into Negan's mind, and he immediately summoned the High Angel, the Surveillance Angel, to go forward and meet the attack. Surveillance Angel. After hearing the order, the angel floating behind Negan, who was much bigger than the other angels, summoned a staff. Under Wuming's slightly crumbling expression, the Surveillance Angel used the short staff to smash down on Wuming. That's right, it smashed down with the short staff. Pung! Wuming grabbed the short staff, and said with a forced smile, "Summoning a staff to smash people? I don't know what to say anymore." While everyone in Negan was shocked that Wuming caught the Surveillance Angel's attack with one hand, Wuming pointed at the angel in front of him. Heavenly fire! In the blink of an eye, the Surveillance Angel was completely enveloped by a large amount of holy light golden flames until everything was reduced to nothingness. What? The High Angel was hit in one hit. Negan couldn't believe his eyes. Wuming had been through so much, but he didn't have many means of fighting. When he was in Ireland and Britain, Wuming only relied on his own martial arts and the noble phantoms in his hands, namely the powerful X-Silver, Meteor Silver, and Yggdrasil, that could control plants and vitality, and some loon magic. In Babylon, Wuming, who transformed into a dragon, relied on the power of faith of the Babylonians. After all, after Wuming left, faith could no longer be used. That was the limitation of faith. The root dragon that was not in Babylon was no longer the Babylon Hyenryong, but the legendary root dragon. That was the limitation of faith. After that, Wuming came to this world. Thinking about it carefully, Wuming's abilities were as follows: martial arts and wisdom, loon magic, that he learned from Skaha, X-Silver, Meteor Silver, S-Light Cannon, Yggdrasil, S ability to control plants and vitality, Funbaba that fused with Yggdrasil, Enkidu's Heaven Lock that wrapped around his arm, and the magic that he just learned from Nazarik's library. Ignoring his martial arts and noble phantoms, in a situation where he was empty-handed, other than the loon magic and the magic that he just learned from Yggdrasil, World Tree Game, he had no other means of attack. Funbaba was included in the noble phantoms. Enkidu was still in a deep sleep because he was not used to the space-time tunnel. Although he was in a deep sleep, Wuming could still use Heaven Lock. The loon magic required the engraving of the loon runes before it could be activated. The invisible attack from before was the magic that Wuming engraved on the way here. Therefore, the only magic that could be used now was the magic in Yggdrasil, World Tree Game. After all, the 1st to 10th tier spells were all instantaneous. With Wuming's magical power as the root dragon, even if he was a young root dragon, his magical power was incomparably huge. At the very least, it would take him more than a year to continuously cast a 10th tier spell before he ran out of magical power. And that was excluding the fact that Wuming could recover his magical power. Logically speaking, Wuming should not be able to learn the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree. After all, Wuming was not a player. It seemed that it was because of the bloodline of the root dragon. As long as there was a grimoire or someone to teach him, learning the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree, was very easy for Wuming. By the way, although Wuming was often injured, the body of a young root dragon was actually abnormally tough. If Artoria wanted to break through Wuming's defense with Excalibur, she would have to use her noble phantoms. Moreover, that was only breaking through his defense. If she wanted to seriously injure Wuming, she would have to use an unknown but abnormally powerful black gas like Morgan Le Fay. Of course, ever since he was corroded by the black gas, Wuming's resistance to things like poisons and curses had basically reached the limit. To put it simply, regardless of the level of the poisons or curses in the world, they could no longer affect Wuming. This was the characteristic of the root dragon that was born from the root of all worlds. Otherwise, those that could transform into dragons would be called root dragons. For example, special abilities such as traveling through space and time without being affected, and learning the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree, that should not be able to learn, were all brought about by the bloodline of the root dragon. Don't worry. If this thing doesn't die after being hit by a tier 9 magic, I'll have to look at it in a different light. Wuming said with a wave of his hand. Although Nasarek was an alien guild, the spells that the members of the guild organized were not only of the Dark series. The Skyfire just now was a Faith-type spell. Although it was strange to use Faith-type magic to attack an angel, Wuming did not think too much about it. The Skyfire spell had a special ability that increased its attack power on non-human enemies. In Yggdrasil World Tree, apart from races such as humans, elves, and dwarves, demi-humans, aliens such as orcs, goblins, ogres, vampires, bugmen, demons, and dragons all had attack power. Coupled with the support of Wuming's powerful magic, how could a mere level 45 monster withstand it? That's right, Wyrm was the one who told Wuming the monster's level. According to Wyrm, there were such monsters in Yggdrasil World Tree. Is it a coincidence, or? Wuming pondered. What? Tier 9 magic? How is that possible? Negan shouted as he broke down. Mama, calm down. You're the leader of these priests after all. Wuming said with a smile. Impossible. How could anyone know a Tier 9 magic? Negan seemed to have broken down as he took out a crystal from his pocket. Item? I remember that crystal item seems to be used to seal spells from the 1st to the 10th level. After thinking for a while, Wuming swung his arm and a silver chain flew out from Wuming's palm. Before Negan could react, the chain snatched the crystal item from Negan's hand. After putting away Enkidu, Wuming looked at the item in his hand, and then tossed it to Wyrm who was beside him. Go back and see what's inside. Yes, Lord. Lord Villo. Then Wuming looked at Negan's group. As for you. Just as Wuming was about to say something, the sky shattered like a piece of glass in front of Wuming's group. Just in case, I even learned a high-level counterintelligence spell called Mirror Reflection. The motherland is spying on me. Negan was in disbelief. Wait. Negan suddenly shouted as if he had broken down. Sir. No. My lord, we know I'm fine by myself. Please let me go. I'll give you any amount of money. I beg you. Don't embarrass yourself here, lowly creature. Wyrm suddenly shouted. The only thing you can do now is to quietly kneel on the ground and gratefully accept Lord Villo's gift of death. Low-class creature. Purgatory said in an uncertain tone. Ma. Since Wyrm said so. Wuming closed his eyes and opened them again. A golden vertical pupil appeared in Wuming's eyes. Accept your fate, lowly creature. Chapter 38. Under Wuming's orders, Yo captured the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight and brought them back to Nasarek. Wuming used the excuse that the sacred scripture of sunlight could be resurrected to order Yo not to kill the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight. This was cruel to the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight. After all, Nasarek was an alien guild created by a group of insane gamers. After Nasarek transformed into a physical body, Nazarek's interrogation methods were devastating. Moreover, Wuming had ordered them not to kill the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight. It was obvious that the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight had been offended. However, this had nothing to do with Wuming. The battle between Wuming and the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight was witnessed by some villagers and Gudjefu. Wuming used the excuse of feeding the magical beasts to transfer the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight to Nasarek. Since he had gathered enough information about this world, Wuming decided to bid farewell. Is that so? Is Lord Villo leaving? Gudjefu asked thoughtfully. Lord Villo, I would like to thank you again. Thank you for saving my parents. Thank you. Anli and Nim heard that Wuming was leaving and hurried over to express their gratitude to Wuming. Wuming could only smile helplessly. Oh yes, Anli, I have something for you. Wuming extended his hand to Yobade. Yes. Yobade took out 2 objects that were the size of a cow's horn, and handed them to Wuming. This is a flute that can summon goblins. Use it well. Anli was taken aback. She wanted to reject the gift, but Wuming stuffed it into her hands. Lord Villo, this is too precious. It was a magical item, and it was extremely powerful for a village girl like Anli. Just take it. It's not a very valuable item, Wuming said with a smile. Wuming was not wrong. These were the tools that he had asked Wyrm to bring out from Nasarek. According to the information in Wuming's mind, these two pairs of flutes could only summon a dozen low-level goblins. Of course, that was in the game. Though the low-level goblins weren't enough to protect the village, the goblins could teach the villagers how to defend themselves. Although Khan village was not too far away from Nazarik's underground tomb, Wuming did not plan to protect Khan village forever. As for who to give the item to, Wuming undoubtedly gave it to the pair of sisters he met first. Servillo, are you interested in going to King's City with me? Gudjefu suddenly asked. May I know why you are inviting me? From the battle between you and those people, I can see that Servillo is a very powerful magical chanter. After all, I am a citizen of the kingdom, and it is necessary for me to recruit talents for the kingdom, Gudjefu said seriously. Please forgive my refusal, Sir Gudjefu. I still have some family members to take care of. I won't go to King's City with you, Wuming said naturally. When Baird heard the word family, her expression under the helmet instantly became emotional. Is that so? That's a pity. Then, I wish Servillo a safe journey. Gudjefu was not angry at Wuming's refusal. He only smiled faintly. If I have the chance to go to King's City, I would like to ask Gudjefu to lead the way for me, Wuming said jokingly. Of course, Gudjefu said, leave it to me. After that, Wuming summoned Fimbaba from the forest near Khan village. Sister, look, it's that beautiful deer. Don't talk nonsense, Nim. That's Servillo's magical beast. So this is Servillo's magical beast? It's really an excellent magical beast, Gudjefu praised. Wuming also got on the Fimbaba with Baird. He waved at Gudjefu only, and the others and walked into the distance. After a while, Wuming noticed that Baird, who was sitting behind him, seemed to have some questions. What's the matter, Baird? Baird hesitated for a while and asked. Sir Wuming, do you like humans very much? Hearing this question, Wuming smiled faintly. What about you? What do you think of humans? Baird answered without hesitation. Weak, inferior creatures. What a beautiful scene it would be to stomp them to death like insects. After hearing Baird's words, Wuming had an expression that said, I knew you would say that. Baird, I quite like humans. After all, I was adopted by a kind old man when I was born. Sir Wuming was adopted by humans. Baird was very surprised. Ah yes. You guys didn't exist back then. Back then, I thought I was a human. Wuming recalled the past and said slowly. Is that why Sir Wuming likes humans? Not only that, Baird. Wuming sat back and sat at the same level as Baird. Humans are very mysterious creatures. Their bodies are weak, their strength is weak, and they often fight among themselves. They are vulgar and sad. But humans love life, love peace, are positive, united and tolerant. Humans are such a strange species. They never bow down in the face of difficulties, never give up, and never retreat. They have the courage to face everything. They know how to learn and know how to create. Even if their innate abilities are insufficient, they will work hard to grow. Wuming looked at Baird. Baird, I don't expect you to treat humans well. At the very least, don't be so hostile to them. After saying that, Baird did not say anything else. Wuming smiled helplessly. Consider it my willful request. What do you think, Baird? I understand, Sir Wuming. I'll treat humans seriously, whether it's to kill or to save them. Baird said as if he had figured something out. Thank you, Baird. Please don't say that, Sir Wuming. Baird smiled happily. After coming to this world, you're the only one who's accompanied us. We have to thank you. After hearing Baird's words, Wuming seemed to have thought of something and fell silent. I'm sorry, Baird. Why are you sorry, Sir Wuming? Baird was puzzled. It's nothing. Anyway, let's go home. Wuming gave up on thinking. Forget it. I'll let nature take its course. When Nasarik has established himself in this world, I'll tell them the truth. Yes, Sir Wuming. Under the setting sun, a man and a woman rode on a beautiful beast and traveled slowly. Chapter 39. The office on the 9th floor of Nazarik's underground tomb. Wuming sat on the office chair and listened to Wyrm reading the report. Also, the magic sealing crystal contains a level 60 devil, the Radiant Lord's angel. According to the person called Purgatory, this angel once killed the devil god that ravaged the continent. Currently, this is the situation in Nasarik. Please take a look. After Wyrm finished reading, he placed the document in front of Wuming. Celian Cult Nation. 6-color scripture, huh? Wuming picked up the document in his hand and started reading. A cult nation that exterminates all non-human creatures above humans? The Celian Cult Nation and our Nasarik are really incompatible. Wuming rubbed his forehead helplessly. Such a nation was really disadvantageous to Nasarik. Don't come into contact with the cult nation for now. Set up a devil beast near Khan village that can avoid being detected by intelligence magic and has stealth abilities. That's all for now. Yes. You've worked hard, Wyrm. Go back and rest. Wuming leaned back on the chair and said to Wyrm. How could that be? Lord Wuming, as long as it is for the sake of Jizun, the person I love the most, I will do anything. Seeing that Bedford had turned into an infatuated girl again, Wuming couldn't help but turn his head away. I still want to complain. What's with Wyrm's broken character? Suddenly, a charming voice traveled into the room. Excuse me. Satya pushed open the door and walked in. Satya? What's the matter? Wuming asked curiously. I'm here to admire Lord Wuming's majesty, Satya said with an infatuated expression. Oh, is that so? Then you should be satisfied. Satya, you can leave now. I still have important matters to discuss with Lord Wuming. Wyrm said expressionlessly. Aya, old woman, you're so annoying. Are you in such a hurry because it's past its expiration date? Satya said with an I knew it expression. Then is there anything else on your body that can be eaten? You're like a bunch of food samples. In fact, Wyrm looked at Zacia's chest. I'll kill you, old hag. Who are you calling past their expiration date? Bastard. Wuming slammed the table as he watched the dark Yini duel. All right, you two shouldn't quarrel as soon as you see each other. Speaking of which, why don't I know what Xiataya is going to do? Wuming asked. It's like this, Lord Wuming. I'm about to leave for battle and meet up with Sebastian. It will be difficult for me to return to Nasarik for a while, so I'm here to pay my respects to you. It seems that Wyrm and Demiugos had discussed and sent some people to gather information. Wuming thought. This is the first time you've come into contact with this world. You must be careful in everything you do, Wuming said earnestly. Yes, Lord Wuming. Then I'll take my leave first. Following the sound of the door closing, Satya left the office. Lord Wuming, what are you going to do next? Wyrm asked. I'm going to the treasury to get something. Wyrm, go do what you need to do. Don't worry about me. Wuming stood up and stretched. Yes, Lord Wuming. However, Demiugos may come back to report something to you later. Wyrm bowed slightly and said respectfully. Is that so? Then let Demiugos wait for me here. I'll be back soon. Yes, Lord Wuming. After giving his instructions, Wuming teleported to the entrance of the treasury. Wuming's dragoness was upgraded into a noble phantasm. Coupled with Wuming's constant nourishment, the space inside Dragonist was now very vast. In fact, Wuming came this time to put all the useful things in Nazarik's treasury into Dragonist. After all, Wuming didn't want to live a life without anything. It was more convenient to put the useful things directly into Dragonist. Wuming actually only learned a few spells in Nasarik. The 5th-tier magic Dragon Thunder, the 6th-tier magic Angel's Return, the 9th-tier magic Heavenly Fire, and the magic skills Mirror Reflection, Dragon Thunder, and many other high-level spells. They were mainly used to deal with humans. Angel's Return was a low-level resurrection spell, without side effects. Wuming chose to learn this resurrection spell because he didn't know the performance of resurrection magic, such as the resurrection target's level must not exceed 50, the corpse's integrity, and so on. Heavenly Fire was a large-scale killing spell used to deal with non-human creatures. Mirror reflection was a high-level passive skill. Passive skills were not divided into levels. They were only divided into high-level, intermediate, and low-level. This skill was not only used to guard against intelligence detection magic, but also had absolute resistance to mind control, mind reading, and other mental attacks. That was the advantage of the game. After all, a game couldn't be so detailed. For the time being, Wyrm learned these few spells. There were several more practical Wyrm spells that Wyrm didn't learn yet. For example, advanced item creation, advanced item destruction, advanced item identification, portal, and so on. The magic books Wyrm sorted out before were the magic books for these skills. After Wyrm talked to Pandora Yakut, the keeper of the treasure vault, he took some of the treasures that were unnecessary or redundant for Nasarek. Because the game has become reality, Wyrm had no way to know the function of the items in the treasure vault, except for the special interpretation items. Fortunately, the Staff of Anziwurgong works. In this way, Wyrm used the Staff of Anziwurgong to interpret the function of the items one by one, and chose some items that were useful to him, and did not conflict with the purpose of protecting Nasarek. In the treasure vault, there were other Supreme Beings' spirit halls. In fact, it was the cenotaph. The last player who stayed behind sorted out the equipment of other players, and those equipment were worn by some stone soldiers. It would automatically attack those who wore the Ring of Anziwurgong. Wyrm was shocked when he came here. Looking at these somewhat crooked sculptures, Wyrm felt the players' love for other players, for Anziwurgong, for Nasarek, and even for Yggdrasil. Don't worry, since I'm here, I will make it flourish, and I won't let your efforts over the years go to waste. After all, Wyrm's strength was ready-made, and Nazarek's strength was built by those players. After leaving the treasure vault, Wyrm returned to his office. Demiugos was standing in front of his desk, thinking about something. After hearing someone came in, Demiugos looked back and quickly bowed. Wyrm-sama, you're back. Ah, Demiugos. Is there anything you want to tell me? Wyrm walked to the office chair and sat down. It's about Nazarek's finances. Demiugos adjusted his glasses and continued. After you gave me the gold coins of this world, during testing, I found that as long as they are processed into objects the size of gold coins and have a certain value, they can be used to support Nazarek's operations. Wyrm's eyes lit up. That's great. I happen to have some gold and jewelry that I don't need right now. I'll give them all to you. With that, Wyrm took the item that Demiugos handed over. It was a special leather bag with a large mouth. When he opened the bag, what greeted his eyes was a membrane that looked like water. Wyrm pointed his palm at the membrane, and a large number of treasures swarmed out of Wyrm's palm and fell into the membrane. This bag was called the Infinite Backpack, and it was an item in the Yggdrasil game. It could store unlimited items, and the weight of the bag would not change. After a while, Wyrm sealed the bag and handed it to Demiugos. Looks like I have to find a lucrative job for Nasarek. Wyrm began to plan in his mind. Chapter 40. 10th Floor Nasarek Library. Wyrm was reading a magic book intently. Advanced Item Creation. As his voice fell, Wyrm had a magnificent greatsword in his hand. Wyrm waved it casually. As the greatsword danced, it produced friction with the surrounding air, making a sound as if it was tearing the space. The skills in the game are really abnormal. With high-grade item creation alone, you can create weapons with high durability and power. High-level item creation was a skill that could create simple weapons or items in Yggdrasil, but its effect in the game was a bit weak. After all, powerful weapons or items in the game couldn't be created with high-level item creation. For example, divine artifact and world-level items. It stood to reason that this skill shouldn't change even after the game was transformed into reality, but advanced item creation. As he chanted the spell, a silver chain appeared in Wyrm's hand. Then Wyrm chanted another spell. Advanced item identification. Wyrm said as if he understood something. So that's how it is, you can even create Enkidu. Is it because I'm not a player in the game, so I can use this skill? The Enkidu created with advanced item creation had the same effect as the original Enkidu. The more magical power provided during the creation, the stronger the chain would be. But there was a drawback. The items created with advanced item creation would not have any growth, and it couldn't increase the magical power output to improve its performance. That was the only drawback. However, Wyrm took advantage of one of the advantages of advanced item creation. The created items would not disappear because of being placed for a long time. They would only be destroyed. In other words, as long as it was maintained, the created items would always exist. Of course, it still depended on what kind of item was created. If it was a weapon, it would be fine, but if it was a crystal item, it would disappear and turn into powder after a few uses. Advanced item destruction. With a bang, the great sword that Wyrm had created earlier turned into motes of starlight and disappeared into the air. This skill isn't bad either. If I use it, it can completely rival shatter magic. Crushing magic, as the name suggested, was a type of magic that specialized in crushing. It was extremely dangerous. If something went wrong, even the caster himself would be crushed. Well, let's leave it at that for now. Wyrm put away the fake heaven lock in his hand. Let's go to Ylanter to exchange some gold coins later. 500 gold coins. What do you think? 1,000 gold coins. Dong. Deal. Walking out of the shop, Wyrm shook the money pouch in his hand. Seriously, this shop owner is really interesting. He actually wants to buy the weapon I created for 500 gold coins. Does he think I'm easy to bully? Wyrm said in boredom as he looked at the bulging money pouch in his hand. I didn't expect there to be such a thing as platinum coins. Is it worth 10 times more than gold coins? As for whether the shop owner lied to him or not, Wyrm wasn't worried. After all, Wyrm found a large shop with a good reputation. Even if he was cheated, Wyrm still had the means to find the shop owner. It's time to go back. Wyrm found a rather secluded alleyway. Portal. As the voice fell, a constantly changing black and red circular portal appeared in front of Wyrm. Without hesitation, Wyrm walked in. In a conference room similar to a luxurious living room, a group of guardians sat there discussing something. A constantly changing black and red circular portal appeared in the room. A group of guardians immediately stood up and put on a respectful look. Wyrm walked out of the portal. Wyrm-sama. Wyrm waved his hand, stopped the guardians from saluting, and sat on the main seat. Clatter. With the sound of gold coins colliding, a bag of platinum coins fell on the table. Demiugos, these are the platinum coins I got from Ylanter. You can test them later. Yes, sir. Demiugos reached out and put away the bag of platinum coins. Y'all, have you finished modifying the villager's memory? Yes, sir, Wyrm-sama, but because you made a lot of noise that day, I followed your order and modified some of their memory. Y'all raised his hand and replied with a smile. Okay, Khan village is like this for the time being. Remember to send some troops to lurk near Khan village. They don't need to be strong, but they must be good at hiding. Yes, sir, Wyrm-sama. Male, has Nazarik's concealment been completed? This was the decision made by Wyrm and Demiugos during their discussion. After Wyrm agreed to hide Nazarik, this task was given to Male. Yes, sir, Wyrm. Nazarik's surroundings are hidden with soil and trees. The sky is also hidden with illusions. There should be no problem, Male said weakly. Wyrm, keep in contact with Zaisha and Sebastian. If anything happens, retreat immediately. Yes, sir, Wyrm. Don't worry. Wyrm smiled sweetly. However, when Wyrm saw this smile, he remembered Wyrm's infatuated nature. Ahem, I'm going to the royal capital. Yes, I'll immediately prepare the guards to accompany you. Wyrm's smile changed and said seriously. There's no need for the guards. I'm going alone. When Wyrm said this, the guardians were unhappy. Please reconsider, Sir Wyrm. Please bring some guards, Sir Wyrm. The Supreme Honorable's safety is the most important. Sir Wyrm, please reconsider. Hearing everyone's words, Wyrm smiled bitterly. All right. I'll choose someone from Nazarik to bring along. Wyrm looked around at the guardians and saw the worry in their eyes. You guys were originally NPCs. Is the Supreme Honorable's life force after becoming physical? You guys are really like a group of children who can't grow up. To be honest, Wuming already had a sense of belonging to Nasarek. After all, Wuming had been on the move ever since he left the ordinary world where he had nothing to worry about. From the country of shadows to Connaught, from Britain to Babylon, although he stayed in some places for longer periods of time, Wuming was still a passerby. And it was unintentional that he came to this world. Really, I'm a little envious of the players of Ains Wugong. If only I could travel through time with Nasarek. That's right. Wuming seemed to have thought of something and suddenly stood up. What's wrong, Sir Wuming? Yerbade looked at Wuming with a worried face. The other guardians also looked worried. Sorry, I just thought of something. That's all for the meeting. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Wuming hurriedly opened the portal and stepped in, leaving a group of guardians staring at each other in bewilderment. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.